Meeting of the East Penn School District Board of School Directors. You now all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, this moment's a little bittersweet. We're getting our final SGA report from our student representatives, Ms. Kaler and Ms. Howard. So I'll save my remarks for after your report, but please proceed.
Hi, Lexi and I are happy to be here to give our last update of the school year, but thank you so much for a great opportunity, and we really appreciate all your attention and support this school year. So congrats to girls track for winning EPCs last week and boys coming in second place. Good luck to the softball team who's playing their semi-final game tonight. Boys volleyball went undefeated in EPC matches this season. Boys tennis players Nick Stone and Chris Stone won the District 11 District Doubles title, and girls lacrosse advanced to play in their 5th straight EPC final. So many exciting accomplishments this spring sports season, and congrats to all the student athletes continuing their academic and athletic careers in college who participated in signing day on May 2nd. Finally, EHS won the District 11 Michael J. Meilinger Sportsmanship Award, meaning exemplary sportsmanship was shown and there were no disqualifications across all 3 secondary schools.
Along with sports, junior and senior prom occurred in the past 2 weekends at DeSales and Arts Quest. Students had a great time and the class officers did a beautiful job with everything. Keystone testing begins tomorrow and we wish students good luck while others get to enjoy a few days to sleep in. This week also marks the second and final week of AP exams for those who are testing. EHS received 15 Freddie nominations for Mamma Mia this past spring. The Freddie Awards ceremony will be held on May 22nd, as well as the Emmaus Art Show. At the National Scholastic Press Association, the Stinger was awarded 5th place nationally for the best show in competition. Numerous students won individual awards for their exceptional contributions to the paper as well. Pals Club attended the Special Olympics hosted by Whitehall for a fun day of exercise and student support. Senior and underclassmen awards are approaching in the coming weeks as well. And similarly to the rest of the school, SGA is starting to wind down for the school year. We just finished Fancy Friday last week, which rounded out our smaller community engagement events, as well as the group just inducted 3 new members of the current freshman class for next year. Finally, we are very excited to host our annual Final Fest this Friday to commemorate the end of the school year. Thank you again so much for the opportunity to be here. It's been amazing. Thank you. Good night.
Right. Well, thank you for your report. Are there any questions or comments from the board prior to turning things over to Dr. Campbell?
I just have to point out that Stinger getting 5th place nationally. I mean, I know their accomplishments are many, but that's, in addition to all the other wonderful accomplishments that you just mentioned, that is incredible and such a feather in our cap. And so congratulations to everyone involved there.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Whitney. Ms. Ford.
I was going to comment the same thing. It's amazing. I mean, in the nation, that's very impressive. But I also wanted to thank you for your diligence and coming consistently and sharing pertinent information with the group. So thank you both.
Ms. Klotz.
I have to add my thanks to both of you. Thank you so much for coming, like Ms. Ford said, but also just for being great examples of our East Penn education. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Appreciate those comments. I'll turn things over to Dr. Campbell.
Before you perhaps head out for the night, I also, on behalf of the board, wanted to recognize both Lindsay and Lexi for your outstanding leadership as SGA school board representatives. And in addition to the great information that you shared with our board and our public on a monthly basis, you're both outstanding students at Emmaus High School and really exemplify what we refer to as our portrait of a graduate in terms of individuals who are resilient, hardworking, perseverant, and respectful of individuals and what they bring to the table. And that certainly came through loud and clear as you represented the student voice at Emmaus High School with our school board here in our meetings. Lindsay, we wish you the best as she's a member of the class of 2025, and so we'll proudly present her with her diploma in just a couple weeks. In addition to serving as vice president of SGA this year, she's also been a member of the Interact Club, one of our Hornet ambassadors. She's a part of a VEDM Club and National Honor Society. And following graduation, she plans to attend University of Connecticut to study marketing. And so we will continue to watch for you and know that even greater things are coming your way. Lexi, you will be a senior in the class of 2026. We hope that you'll consider continuing as an SGA representative next year. And in addition to her work as a student government representative, she's editor-in-chief of the yearbook, and she's a member of the National Honor Society, the National Spanish Honor Society, as well as one of our Hornet ambassadors and a mentor to other students at Emmaus High School. So again, we're also incredibly proud of you and appreciate your student leadership and your voice here on the board. And we do have just a small token of appreciation that our board members will share with you, again, to show our gratitude to the great work that you've done.
Well, I appreciate Dr. Campbell doing such a fine job to highlight all your accomplishments thus far. I'm sure there's going to be many more to come as you embark after graduation and another year here, and then I'm sure great things will follow after that as well. So again, thank you very much for your time and for your enthusiasm bringing your reports each month. This has always been a highlight of the meeting when you are here. Again, I wish you all well. Lindsay, I wish you well for whatever's next.
Thank you.
And Lexi, wish you well. Have a great summer. And again, maybe we'll see you back
Thank
at the
you.
dais here next year. So again, thank you very much. And as usual, I invite you to stay, but if you have other endeavors you'd like to pursue tonight, you may be excused. Okay, next on the agenda, our request to comment. We have 8 requests for this evening. Prior to calling each one up individually, I'd like to read the following statement. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with public comment, speakers should feel free to express their opinion, comment, or question, and understand that this is not an interactive engagement with the board or with the administration. Please direct your correspondence to the chair, be respectful, not engage in profane rhetoric, not disclose confidential personal information regarding staff or students, or comment on matters in violation of the law or board policy, and be mindful that others, including students, may be listening. I would request that you consider that protocol when making your comments. For the members of the audience, please also be respectful and refrain from speaking during the public comment period. With that, I will now announce each speaker and their topic. When you step up to the podium, again, state your name, and you will have 3 minutes within which to speak. And I will provide you with a 30-second warning for when your time is up. Okay, our first request to comment this evening, I believe this is James Harada, who's here to talk tonight about AI recognition.
Hello, my name is James. I helped develop a AI thing that helps with AI memory. With having it stored instead of on the cloud, it's stored online, or more so stored on a computer hard drive instead of the cloud.
Sure.
James, do you mind if I help you out?
Yeah.
Because I appreciate you signing up to for public comment.
Yeah.
James was actually part of our recognition. And so I'm so very glad that you, and I believe your dad is
Yeah.
with you this evening. And so our board and our community likely recognizes James's name for his outstanding accomplishment. I had previously noted in a board report that James, who's a senior at Emmaus High School, he was a member of a team that developed a breakthrough AI patent, and I couldn't even pretend, James, to explain exactly what it does. So maybe you could give us
Yeah.
a little bit of background in layman's terms. But really, it talks about AI and how that intelligence processes and stores information. I know that I believe you worked closely with your dad as
Yes,
well as
yeah.
part of that team, certainly if he's interested in sharing any information as well. This is a tremendous, tremendous accomplishment for anyone, particularly for someone who is a student in high school. And so in addition to James's great work with his patent, he's also a student athlete. I appreciate the fact that I think tonight was like a baseball game or something
Yeah.
really important, that you somehow,
Yeah.
managed your schedule to come out and be recognized. And so we are so very proud of you, and just, again, also a member of the class of 2025. And so when you go on to graduate in about a month, we know that you have great opportunities ahead of you. And again, really appreciate you coming out. And if you could just explain a little bit about the work that you did.
All right, so the way that AI is set up now is that if you're talking to it, it's not going to remember what you tell it because there's no structure to it. So like if you have like a class that's stretched out a period of time, essentially what you're doing is you're giving the AI all of this stuff all at once. And it's all jumbled up and it can't find what you're asking for. So like if I were to tell the AI that I like apples today and then a couple weeks later tell it I like strawberries, it's not going to be able to tell you like when or how that change happened. Whereas if I were to structure it so that in smaller chunks, the AI will be able to know when it happened that you said I don't like strawberries anymore and I went to apples, if that makes sense. So you're structuring it. And then the other thing is that because it's stored locally instead of on the cloud, there's no need for like security problems that you may arise with the cloud, because the cloud isn't as secure as like your personal computer, because it's your personal computer. And then because it's structured and all that, that's why it's more secure and makes AI faster, because it's not as unstructured. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, but instead you have all the haystack laid out and you know where the needle is. So it's far easier to find, if that makes sense.
How did your work come to be? Like, how did you become involved in this project?
So my brother and I, he sits on the couch and he plays video games when he's not doing schoolwork, which most kids do, I believe. So I came and I was watching him play the video game that he was playing. I think it was Star Wars Commanders or something. It's an old video game, but I was watching him play it, and he was telling the people on his thing, they're controlled by the computer base. He's not playing with other people. It's on the computer. And so it was like he's telling them these commands to do, and they do it. And he's like, yeah, no, I don't really like telling them what to do because they're not very smart. They're going to go in and just die. So he's like, I don't know. And I was like, I wonder if like there's a way that we could mod the game so that you can play and that it learns how you learn to like your playing style. So like, for example, if you have like one character that you want to be that's like laid back and more like in reserve to help people, or another one that's like tanking that like will like go out and actually do damage. So like you have like a team of people that like your playing styles of what you would want them to play as helps mesh together better, so that you're playing technically with lots of clones of yourself that's really good at playing what you're doing, if that makes sense.
That's great.
So that's what it started out as, and then one thing led to another, and then we started doing something completely different that is now an app. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
All right, thank you so much for sharing. It's fascinating work, and again, congratulations on earning the patent, and see you walking across the stage in 4 weeks.
Yeah, thanks.
Great, thank you. That's right. Again, thank you for that. Okay, our next request is from Will Peck on later start time.
Good evening, members of the boards and guests. My name is Will Peck, and I'm a junior at Emmaus High School, as well as a member of the boys soccer team. I'm here tonight as part of my AP Language and Composition class to urge you to further consider implementing a school start time of 8:30 or later beginning in the coming years. As both a student and athlete, I've experienced firsthand how early start times limit our ability to reach full potential academically, mentally, and physically. The science is clear. Adolescent brains are biologically wired to fall asleep later and wake up later. Forcing teens to function on less than 8 hours of sleep negatively affects memory, focus, and emotions, which are all skills that are essential for learning. At Emmaus, we are already living with these consequences. In a recent survey sent out to students, 88.5% of students who responded said they struggle to stay alert in class due to a lack of sleep. Meanwhile, in a separate survey sent to teachers, over half of the teachers said that a student engagement improves on 2-hour delay scheduled days. The connection between sleep, later start times, and improved engagement is clear. This issue isn't just about feeling tired, it's about academic performance and long-term well-being of Emmaus students. As I'm sure you all have heard at some point, national research shows students who start school later get more sleep, earn higher grades, and have better attention and attendance. One study done by the University of Washington found a 4.5% increase in final grades after a later start time change. As a student athlete, I also know the role sleep plays in injury prevention and performance. A later start time would protect both their academic futures and physical health. I understand that the district faces financial hurdles, but these are solvable. I would recommend a temporary 1% tax increase in the active pursuit of grant funding over 2 years. This would be communicated to taxpayers as a direct benefit to students' well-being and academic performance. This paired with the pilot program and reconstructed bus routes can make this transition possible. Ultimately, this is about putting students first. A later start time would align our schedule with science and support the mission of the East Bend School District to foster problem solvers, collaborators, and critical thinkers. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Our next request is from Spencer Coppenall, marching band uniforms.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I'd like to begin by thanking the AP Language and Composition teachers here at Emmaus High School for encouraging their students to engage with the school board as part of their curriculum. It's a powerful reminder that our classroom prepares students not just academically, but as active, informed citizens. I'm incredibly proud to stand here tonight alongside our students who have chosen to speak about important music and arts education. My name is Spencer Coppenall, and I'm the new band director here at Emmaus High School. I've pivoted in my comments quite a bit since there are going to be a few comments this evening about the marching band uniforms. So I'd like to take a moment to sincerely thank the board members who spoke up in support of marching band uniforms during the last meeting. Your words made a difference to our students, to our families, and to the staff who advocate for them every day. I would also like to thank the members who responded to my email inviting you to our spring concert. And it was dark in the auditorium, and sorry, I don't remember who it was, but we did have one board member come out to our concert, yes, thank you, Mrs. Klotz. I thought it was you. So thank you again for coming out to support our students. They do really appreciate that. I'd also like to personally thank Superintendent Dr. Campbell for taking the time to meet with me to discuss the importance of these uniforms and get some more details about the student numbers, costs, and productions, as well as checking in not just about our band students, but for the Emmaus band community. And to our parents and supporters, thank you. Whether it's showing up at football games, cheering at concerts, or lining the sidewalks at parades, your presence means the world to our students. That kind of consistent community support is one of the things that makes this program special. At the end of the day, we can talk a lot about how we value the arts, and I believe we do that here in East Penn in my short time here. but real support does come in the form of action. Approving the marching band uniform is not just a logistical necessity. It's a clear, tangible first step in a much longer journey of supporting the music and arts programs in East Penn. From aging instruments to expanding curricular offerings in our music program, we had to create 2 symphonic bands next year and another music theory class. Our needs go far beyond uniforms as our program grows and develops to new levels. But every journey starts somewhere, and this step, the investment to our students' identity and our community's identity in confidence and pride, is the right one. Thank you for your time and your continued support of the arts in our district.
All right, thank you for your comments. Our next commenter is Jeff Schreck, also on EHS marching band uniforms.
Good evening, board members, administrators, and community. My name is Jeff Schreck, and aside from working as an educator in the district for 20 years and being a parent of a excited third grader in this amazing district, I have also had the privilege of serving as the assistant band director and other positions in the Emmaus High School Marching Band over the past 19 years. I am here tonight not just as an educator, not as an employee, and not just a parent, but as someone who has seen the deep pride and identity that this music program brings to our students and the community in East Penn. Our marching band uniforms are more than just performance attire. They're a statement. They represent who we are as a school and as a community. And these uniforms have been not only across Pennsylvania, but even on the national stage, parading through Walt Disney World, performing at championships, representing Emmaus with pride in front of hundreds, sometimes thousands. This year, we also hope to have our own home show where we actually get to showcase everything here. And I believe we have 7, 8, possibly 9 schools that will be coming to East Penn as well to perform. The uniforms in the marching band have been currently used, that we're using, have been ordered back in 2013. And over those almost 12 years, our students have taken care of the uniforms to the best of their ability, wearing them with pride at each game. Each year, parent volunteers have also helped to ensure that these uniforms fit the students as best as possible and are also organized and properly put away when they're not being used. The fact is that with these uniforms that we currently have, we are running out of them, and we may not be able to fit our growing band. With next year's projected numbers, we will be at capacity. And if the uniform budget is delayed again, we run the serious risk of not having enough uniforms to outfit our band for the fall of 2026. And since uniforms take roughly 6 to 9 months to go from design to manufacture to coming back to us, the time to act is now if we truly want to be prepared. I want to thank the board members who spoke in favor and even thought about pushing for keeping the uniforms in the budget at last meeting. Your public support means a great deal to both us and the students, and it shows that East Penn truly values the arts and those students who perform in those arts. Not just the words, but your actions. We appreciate it. We have a remarkable group of young people growing every year who give countless hours of their time to make this community proud, and it is my hope that we support those students and give them the tools that they need to keep doing that at the highest level and reconsider adding new uniforms to the budget. Thank you so much for your time, effort, and communications.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Our next request is from Brian Wessner regarding the budget and marching band uniforms.
Thank you. My name is Brian Wessner. I'm a resident here in Emmaus and a parent. I'm here to speak about the budget and the marching band uniforms. As Mr. Janikowski said, I urge the board to reconsider the $100K for the band, putting it back into the budget. Currently, the band has 99 uniforms that are usable, and next year they're hoping to get over 90 members. Barely enough. Our uniforms are old, and it's time for replacement. It'd be horrible for a prominent school like Emmaus to have to limit their marching band, or worse yet, wearing something other than the proper uniform. Being a longtime resident here, I love seeing the band at the football games, or marching in the Halloween parade. The uniforms contribute to the sense of loyalty, team identity, and enhance the visual presentation of the group. I've been involved with the band for the last 8 years. Both my daughters marched in the band, and now my nephew. The marching band has opened up great opportunities for them. My oldest daughter is currently at East Stroudsburg, where she's received a scholarship for marching band, 50% off her tuition. My younger daughter's at Shippensburg. She's also in the marching band. She's also, because of her band, has been marching in a world-class drum corps for the last 3 years, world-class championship drum corps. There's other former students that are also marching at schools currently: USC, Purdue, Temple, Oklahoma State, Delaware, state schools locally like Kutztown and Westchester. And I have to put this out there, and yes, the Penn State Blue Band. What an accomplishment for our Emmaus students. Our band also competes at local competitions and supports our community through other Halloween parades, elementary school parades, not to mention the number of students that wear these uniforms at district band and state band. I'm sure other activities receive new uniforms. I don't want to exclude the kids involved in the marching arts. I wanted to speak today just to make you aware of the hard work and the commitment and the need for this for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Our next request is from Harrison Jeanette and Cameron Bauer on funding in the music departments.
Good evening, members of the board and the audience. My name is Cameron Bauer.
And I'm Harrison Jeanette. We are juniors here at Emmaus High School. This evening, we would like to present our findings for our inquiry project, which we have recently completed for AP Language and Composition. We are here to advocate for the musical programs at Emmaus High School, programs that are essential to student development, but are currently underfunded. According to the East Penn School District's own statement of beliefs, it is committed to managing financial assets in, quote, an efficient and effective manner that is fiscally responsible to all members of the community, end quote. Yet, our music programs, band, chorus, and orchestra receive a shared total of only $18,000, in which they agreed to split evenly. An additional $10,000 is allocated for transportation costs, specifically for the PMEA events, in which the band has sent 7 students to districts, 4 to regions, 4 to states, and 1 to all Eastern, with chorus and orchestra also having a heavy presence in sending nearly 20 students to the PMEA events. Football games alone, which the marching band is expected by the community and by the district to attend, consume over $10,000 of our budget each year. While marching band is fortunate enough to have a supported booster program to help make ends meet, why should orchestra and chorus suffer and be punished simply because they don't? All 3 programs bring immense value to our school and community, and all deserve equitable support.
The academic benefits of music education are undeniable. Studies show that students involved in music consistently perform better in school, particularly in subjects like math and reading. According to the College Board, students in music performance groups scored, on average, almost 200 points higher than their peers on the SAT. These numbers reflect more than just musical talent. They demonstrate stronger cognitive skills like pattern recognition, memory, and problem solving. Music education isn't just about learning notes and rhythms. It's about building the mental foundation for academic success.
Yet, despite these benefits, our programs are forced to prioritize quantity over quality, buying cheaper instruments, delaying repairs, and being forced to cut back on necessary expenses. This not only limits the students' experience, but also discourages a wide range of participation from students that come from different backgrounds. Students who may be underprivileged and have limited access to private lessons or outside opportunities to engage in music rely on the school's generosity and dedication to musical education. Some may argue music isn't essential because not all students participate, but that's precisely the point. More funding would mean greater access. More students could experience the academic, social, and emotional that come with being a part of a music ensemble in Emmaus High School. There's a clear need for expansion, marching band numbers outgrowing our uniforms, 2 symphonic bands and more. Music should not just be a privilege that thrown to the side. It should be a priority.
If the East Penn School District truly values student success and community engagement, then it must increase the funding for music education, not just in words, but in action. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Our next request is from Sadie Wallace on health curriculum, sex education.
Good evening, members of the board, faculty, and community. My name is Sadie Wallace, and I'm a current 11th grade student at Emmaus High School. Today, I'll be presenting my findings for my AP Lang inquiry project. I'm here to address a serious gap in our students' education, the current health curriculum at Emmaus, especially the sex education component. In its current state, it falls short of what students need in order to be informed, safe, and responsible. Currently, students are taught about STIs, abstinence, and consent. All important, but not enough. As we teenagers continue into adulthood, we need comprehensive, medically accurate information about reproductive health, contraception, healthy relationships, and communication. Without this, students turn to social media and the internet, where misinformation is widespread and often dangerous. Even health teachers within the department have acknowledged that our current curriculum does not help students identify credible sources, leaving them vulnerable to online content that presents inaccurate ideas about consent and safety. When speaking with teachers and administrators, they have expressed the need to give students the accurate information that they need so that they are not exposed to misinformation online. I am aware of the process of changing the curriculum and the model of which our current curriculum was created after. The state standards for the health curriculum, however, have not been revised since the early 2000s, which are the standards that we hold our curriculum to today. We must, as a district, go beyond this to give students the best education that they need. The consequences of the current gap are real and have hit our own school with teen pregnancies just in the past year. And national studies have now shown that comprehensive sex education increases contraception use, lowers STI rates, and fosters healthier relationships. Yet, our current curriculum is still abstinence-based, and a model that, according to experts, has very little impact on students' choices made. The recent survey I did at high school showed that over half of our students felt that they did not receive comprehensive sex education in their current health classes. Meanwhile, 80% of teachers surveyed said that they would want their own children to receive the comprehensive sex education at school. Comprehensive sex education doesn't just cover biology, it builds skills. This type of curriculum empowers students to set boundaries, identify unhealthy relationships, understand consent, and make informed decisions. It creates the safe space needed to have uncomfortable but necessary conversation, especially as teenagers. As I concluded my research, I learned that the state will be updating their health curriculum in about the next 2 years. Therefore, in about 2 to 3 years, we will be updating our own health curriculum within the district. And I stand here to strongly urge that the East Penn School District to keep this information in mind when the revision of the health curriculum occurs, to include comprehensive, inclusive, and medically accurate sex education. If we as a district are serious about preparing our students for real life, then we must be serious about giving them the knowledge and skills necessary to make the safe decisions to take care of themselves and others. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for your comments. Our last request tonight is from Olivia Kay on awareness of vacations.
Good evening. My name is Olivia Krupp. You may remember me from a while back when I spoke about starting the girls' wrestling program, but today I am here to talk about something else. And I want to start off by telling a story. So, as a freshman and for part of my sophomore year, I was a half-day student at LCTI in the precision machining lab. When the decision was made for me to leave LCTI and become a full-day Emmaus student, it ultimately benefited my ability to focus on wrestling. However, it hasn't been completely, as some would say, sunshine and rainbows since I went full-time here at the high school. For me right now, I take 2 AP classes and an honors course. It's not a lot, but it's still more than nothing. From an outside perspective, this puts me on track for college, but I'll be honest, I don't know if I want to pursue higher education. As a student in LCTI, I thought I had my future planned. I believed I was going to go out on a co-op with a company by senior year and eventually start working for a machine shop full-time, as those were where my interests lied. Yet as I stand here before you now, I have lost that pathway, that sense of direction, especially after having to choose between what education I want and the sport I love. And it's not just me. Not every student wants, needs, or has the opportunity to go to college. But in today's society, many seem to forget that. And the students that don't have higher education in their future seem to fall by the wayside. In my AP English language composition class, I wrote a research paper on this phenomenon. Additionally, I interviewed Mr. Jason Geist, one of our school's tech ed teachers, to get his opinion. During the interview, Mr. Geist told me about how when he was in high school, almost all, if not every adult he knew, told him to go to college. This push by parents formed a long-standing stereotype surrounding work in the trades and caused students to be grouped together based on their academic abilities. Unfortunately, these stereotypes are still around today, so in my paper and in my research, I discussed the effect that this stereotype has on students and the education system, as well as the different types of intelligence that people have that are suited for different contexts and jobs. Ultimately, what I'm proposing for the school district going forward is to create more awareness around the trades. This comes from an original idea Mr. Geist had to start at the root, focus on educating the parents. I know at the beginning of the school year, the high school hosted a FAFSA and student aid information presentation that my mom and I attended, plus a good amount of other parents and students. Would it not be feasible to host another event like that, but surrounding the benefits of vocations as a career? To be as forward as possible, I believe as leaders of our school community, we should investigate possible avenues to increase awareness of trades, giving students the best opportunities to succeed. If we can achieve this, we can afford students the ability to take pride in themselves and their work, and to not only be high-value employees, but also to be high-value people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments, and I apologize I misread. That's awareness of vocations. Okay, thank you very much to our commenters. We'll now move on to the next part of the meeting, which will be for the approval of minutes from the April 28th, 2025 meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any comments or questions from the board? Hey, Ms. Klotz?
It's not about the minutes, it's actually about the students.
Okay.
Okay for?
Well, we'll wait to the district board. Thank you. Okay, so if there are no comments or questions on the minutes, may I take a vote? Ms. Allen, let's call the roll.
Ms. Bowman?
Aye.
Mr. Falegi?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Klotz?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Dr. Whitney?
Aye.
Dr. Levinson?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Moving on to the district update, Dr. Campbell.
James was going to be my first recognition this evening. So I'm going to say, in addition to individual students such as James Harada, we've had a month filled with many, many celebrations of student accomplishments. And so that's really the first part of my community update. In particular, last week, Dr. Povolitis and I had the opportunity to attend Macungie Elementary School's playground opening ceremony, celebrating their new fully inclusive playground, meaning the surface as well as several pieces of equipment are accessible accessible to all students. And in addition, we had a Macungie family that dedicated Brian's Buddy Bench, which is a great space, a bench, as the name reveals, that sits on the Macungie playground. And the intention there is to promote inclusivity. If there's a student sitting on the bench, it's alone, it's an opportunity for other students to recognize that and go over and just sit down and have a conversation with someone and perhaps make a new friend. Special thanks again to Mrs. Vincent for working with her school community for several years. The board likely recalls it was about 4 years ago that we began to have the conversation about the development of a fully inclusive playground. Special thanks again to Mrs. Vincent, the students, the staff, the parent-teacher organization at Macungie Elementary did a phenomenal job in terms of fundraising to fund the equipment on the playground. Mr. Anushko and his team did a great job in terms of really working to be sure that we had funds to support the surface, which is something that's unique now to Macungie School, and certainly one in the future we would look to replicate as we update other playgrounds. I invite the community as well as board members, if you happen to be out near Macungie Elementary, to just take a look. It really is a great welcoming space in which all students are able to have to access that equipment. I'd also like to congratulate our Emmaus High School spring sports team, EPC Scholar Athletes. These athletes have been selected for their outstanding academic achievement throughout their time in their spring season. Those EPC Scholar Athletes from Emmaus are Andrew Lee, Max Lipsky, Brooke Peterson, Sophia Tranguch, Nick Stone, Jared Petrie, Peyton Campbell, and Colin Holden. We'd also, as I think it was Lexi who perhaps mentioned, on May 2nd, our Emmaus High School also celebrated 37 Emmaus High School student athletes who announced their college commitments and their intentions to continue their academic and athletic journeys at colleges and universities. And so our board as well as our community can check out coverage from that event, as well as all 37 student athletes and the very unique and diverse colleges, I should say, at which they're continuing their careers. Speaking of athletics, we're also excited to give a great shout out to our Emmaus athletic department, our coaches, as well as our athletes. We recently received the District 11 Michael J. Meilinger Sportsmanship Award for the 24-25 school year. This award is given to schools that have exemplary sportsmanship and 0 disqualifications across all of their PIAA athletic programs. Emmaus is the only 6A school to achieve this remarkable distinction. And certainly it's an honor that goes out to everyone in our community, our student athletes, our coaching staff, as well as our school community. And thank you for supporting our athletics in a way that we prioritize respect and integrity both on and off the field. So again, great job to all of our student athletes and our athletic program. We are also very proud of our Emmaus High School students from LCTI who announced their future plans at the Skills USA District 11 signing day that occurred on May 2nd. Again, Dr. Povolitis and I had an opportunity to celebrate our Emmaus High School students who attend LCTI and have signed to continue their careers. In particular, James Leap will be attending Lehigh Carbon Community College, and Dakota Miller will also be attending L-Tri-C. So we were really proud of their accomplishments and happy to celebrate with James and Dakota and their families. We'd also like to recognize the Emmaus High School, their LCTI students who are recently received the Class of 2025 awards. Those individuals are Bryn Clark, Austin Durr, Brielle DiGiacomo, Jose Figueroa, Cheyenne Jones, Isabella Jones-Ramos, Isaiah Knight, Isabella Lopez, Maya Nicole Malcolm, Kylie McLean, Zach Osteen, Brady Flieger, Chris Preston, Adam Snyder, and Jacob Walther. Again, LCTI's Outstanding Senior Student Awards from the Class of 2025. The Liberty Bell chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution recently awarded a Good Citizen Award to local high school seniors, and we are excited to share that Cecilia Royak was chosen as the representative from Emmaus High School. So congratulations to her for being recognized for her outstanding citizenship at Emmaus as well as throughout the community. Also, as shared, I believe by Lexi, we're so very proud of the cast and crew of Mamma Mia. 15 Freddie nominations is really pretty phenomenal. In particular, I appreciate that my report's long tonight, but I feel as if they absolutely deserve for their accomplishments to be read aloud. So we received nominations for Outstanding Tech Design, Outstanding Performance by a Male Ensemble Member, outstanding small ensemble performance, outstanding use of choreography and musical staging, outstanding performance by an actress in a supporting role, outstanding production number, Lehigh Valley Live Student Achievement Award, the Vic Kuma Award for outstanding solo vocal performance, outstanding featured performance by an actor, featured performance by an actress, outstanding stage crew, outstanding ensemble, outstanding technical contribution by a student, outstanding performance by an actress in a leading role, and overall outstanding production of a musical. Please stay tuned on May 22nd to see which of those Freddies we earn. But again, just the 15 nominations in and of themselves are incredible. A few announcements about upcoming events. It's very busy between now and the end of the school year, which is coming up on June 10th. In particular, next week, Tuesday, May 20th, East Penn and Communities and Schools have partnered to offer our mental health symposium. That will be held at Lower Macungie Middle School from 6 to 8 p.m. We're going to have food trucks for dinner and great presentations that will run throughout the evening, as well as various community organizations there to offer resources to families. The following night, May 21st, from 5:30 to 7:30 at Shoemaker Elementary, the district will be hosting our East Penn Community Resource Fair. Again, additional representatives from organizations such as Kids Peace, Crime Victims Council, Communities and Schools, Mindful Initiatives, as well as many more organizations will be there to share programs and opportunities for families, ultimately that help to support families and students. The Emmaus High School Art Show, something you don't want to miss, is planned for Thursday, May 22nd from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at Emmaus High School. If you've never been, you absolutely must experience it. I promise you, you won't be disappointed, and you will be amazed that it is the work of students and not professional artists. LCTI's Senior Recognition Night is Thursday, May 29th at PPL at 6:30 p.m. We're excited to celebrate our class of 2025 at LCTI. And then a few final reminders. Our Family Information Night for rising 6th graders will be scheduled at Eyre and Lower Macungie Middle School on June 3rd. Please check our school websites for more information about the specific location of each of those. And today is actually the last day to order signs for to celebrate the class of 2025, whether it's for an 8th grader graduating from middle school or a senior graduating from Emmaus High School. Be sure to go online to order your sign by the end of the night tonight. A great thank you to our Education Foundation for sponsoring that sale. And again, that was a robust report, but there's a lot happening and a lot of great accomplishments of our students. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. There is indeed a lot going on, a lot of great things between your report and that of the SGA. There's a lot of evidence for that. Okay, are there any questions or comments from the board on that report? Ms. Klatz?
So now I can say. I just want to say to the student commenters, just thank you so much for your well thought out speeches, for your AP projects. And at points, I wanted to stand and applaud. You have given me a good deal to think about and also to pursue. So thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Klatz. Other comments? Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I also would like to recognize the students. I think it's neat that every year around this time we have a lot of students from the AP Comp and Lit class come and speak before us, and this is totally anecdotal, but it feels like this year there's a much bigger variety of topics and speakers, and there's it's just a neat thing to see and be a part of and listen to. I did want to highlight one of them from the very beginning, and it's unfortunate that the young man who spoke, and I miss his name, he had to go, but it's a topic that he spoke on that doesn't get a whole lot of news, and it's not flashy, but and I think it's because it requires so much coordination beyond the borders of our district, and that's school start times, later school start times. I'm just going to give a little plug for startschoollater.net, which is it's a national organization, but there's a PA chapter. But I just want him to know specifically, and anybody else that is listening, that this is a topic that some members of the board, myself specifically, and former members of the board, and Dr. Campbell as well, have some experience in exploring this topic. It is a topic that certainly goes regionally and statewide, requires a lot of coordination among elected officials, far beyond the folks you see up here. It is a topic where the science behind it really, there's no question to it, and the science is what it is, and it's pretty clear cut. It's a lot of the red tape and the politicking and the networking and all of those other things that our students don't really have a lot of experience with, that is unfortunately getting a lot of the way. So I would encourage anyone that does find a little bit of interest in the topic like that to start with that website, but feel free to speak to some of your local state representatives, state senators as well, because they are certainly aware of this topic. I've spoken with some of them myself, and they are aware of some of the challenges of getting some of their colleagues to bring forth legislation on a statewide level to make something like this happen. But it would have to be something that we would, I mean, we're talking about different schools going to LCTI or to some regional athletic competitions that require all of us to be on the same page. So it's certainly something that goes well beyond the borders of East Penn. But I do thank that young man for bringing it to our attention. It's certainly something worth talking about more in the future. So hopefully we'll get more traction in the days to come, months to come. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Jankowski?
Just a couple of things. I'd like to echo what my colleagues said to the students. Very well thought out arguments, making your case. I think you guys did a phenomenal job, and it really is thought-provoking information for this board and administration, so thank you. The patent is phenomenal. I can't even begin to imagine the work and just, you know, the technical aspect of putting that together. I really hope you're working on the video game aspect, because you will revolutionize even more so the future video games. So I hope to hear about that or read about that in a some publication in the not too distant future. And then finally, just to reiterate again, we got to get new band uniforms. So somehow let's get that $100,000 and get the new band uniforms. I think I think the statements tonight just reiterate what was said last week, and I think that's absolutely critical. So.
Thank you, Mr. Jankowski. Other comments? Ms. Ford?
Just reiterating with the board, thank you for the conversations. Very engaging, very well thought out. It made me feel really proud to be a part of the community, that there's an investment in so many diverse topics that impact our students. And all I can say is keep going. Definitely keep going and keep showing up. We need the information, and it's greatly appreciated. And James, I had like 8 million questions I wanted to ask just from the little bit you shared. And so I'm definitely going to be Googling and figuring out, and just keep going. We need you. And with AI becoming so popular, we definitely need bright students at the forefront of that conversation. So thank you.
Ms. Bowman?
Yes, thank you. Just to echo everybody else's thoughts about the student speakers, I can't stress this enough. We love hearing from you, even beyond when you have to give a speech because it's a class assignment. Please encourage other students year-round to come and talk to us about the things that they want to see changed, the priorities that they want us to be looking at, because otherwise we don't know about it. And it's so much more powerful to have the stakeholders fighting for what they need than to have it filtered through lots of other people. And it does eventually get to us, but to hear the passion and why something's so important to you really does make a difference. James, when I was listening to you explain your invention, I thought, probably 10 years from now, maybe not even that long, I'm going to see you on the news and you're going to be like the next Tim Cook or Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates. And I'll be like, oh, he came to our school board meeting. I know who that is. So I really wish you well. I can't wait to see how you go out and change the world. Wanted to just mention the playground. I know that was a long time coming, and I'm glad that it's finally here to fruition. I do believe that whole project might have been started by the urging of one family. So assuming I'm correct about that, I do want to just say that's a reason where, somebody does speak up and say that something's needed, it does eventually get done. And really looking forward to seeing more of our playgrounds become accessible as well. And I guess finally, I just wanted to mention something that I'm sure some people will strongly disagree with me, but that sportsmanship award to me is probably more important than winning. So really proud that we got that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman. Ms. Klotz?
I'll make it quick. So, James, okay, since we're pointing out or talking more about AI here, that you figured out your invention through a video game. Yeah. Okay, so just parents, can we all just agree? So video games are good. They have benefits. So I know some people have problems with it, but thank you for, giving the benefit to that. And also, Olivia, so I think this is the third time that you've come out, right? Yeah, so twice with wrestling and now with another topic. So I wanted to point that out as well. So what you are doing is definitely noted. And that's a great example. As Ms. Bowman was saying, we love hearing from you guys and the community in general. We really do need to hear what people have to say. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, thank you for the comments. Thank you for the report. We'll move on to item B, which is a budget update. So I'll turn things over to Dr. Campbell.
Good evening. There was a relatively short turnaround from the last board meeting until this board meeting and gave us limited opportunity to reproduce all of the budget documents. So I just wanted to give the board a very brief verbal update of some of the things that we've noticed that will be updated at this point. We received the May 2025 assessment report from the County Assessment Office, and the assessments are increasing slightly, so that's positive in terms of some additional revenue growth. The state also released the property tax relief fund allocations for the schools across the Commonwealth. Those allocations are generally have increased. But that tends to have a net neutral. That helps our taxpayers, but it has a net neutral effect on our budget because it's additional state funds that come into the district, but they're distributed through property tax relief to the homestead and farmstead properties. But that will be updated. You'll see on the personnel agenda, there's some additional retirements this evening, and certainly when there are retirements, we try to capture some attritional savings that occurs through that. There is one position that will be removed from the priorities as it was determined that position was actually double budgeted. It had been included in sort of our base wage total. And so we'll be removing that. So that's an additional, that sort of helps the budget. Maybe on the other side of the coin, during the month of April, we had 7 additions to our charter school enrollment that totals of roughly $200,000 in additional expense. So that's on the other side. And then we had talked about, or I had talked about and shared with the board with regard to the property casualty and liability insurance, that the early indications were that the renewals could be upwards of 20 to 25%, and that we were going to go out for request proposals for those. And the incumbent carrier appears to be the best option, and it is in that above 20% renewal space. The other, I mean, there's limited companies out there, and the other ones who were proposing actually were proposing a lower level of overall coverage. So, and at a higher rate. So that, so we'll need to adjust the budget for those increases because we did not anticipate, we put in about a 10% increase. And so you'll see those renewals at the June board meeting. So again, at this point, they're the things we have identified that will need to be adjusted in the budget. Obviously, over the next several weeks, there may be some additional things that we'll adjust. But at this point, you know, we are sort of predicting or anticipating that you know, there's been positives but negatives, and so we're still thinking we're going to be in that, generally in that 4% up to the index tax increase for next year. So that's really the budget update. The other thing I wanted to mention is with regard to the property tax rebate program. I know that several board members have asked about that at various points, and we've received feedback. Based on that ongoing feedback from the board, administration is planning to bring forth a recommendation to implement the Table A, the household income and maximum rebates amounts that are employed by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in their rebate program for the 2024 program. So that would increase the maximum total household income from $35,000 as it is currently to $46,000. And it would increase the maximum rebate from $650 to $1,000. And we did prepare an analysis to the greatest extent possible. Obviously, we don't know the exact impact of that. The state has been changing their Table A, and so we're not able to get definitive information from the state even to measure the impact. So again, we did sort of a preliminary analysis of that impact. We did distribute that to the board as part of the board's packet for your review. So they're really the items that I wanted to offer the board this evening in terms of budget update.
Thank you, Mr. Saul. Now I'll open up the floor to comments and questions from the board. Dr. Whitney.
Yeah, I just want to be sure that I'm understanding, and maybe we state this figure again. So you said there's an increase of about seven charter school enrollments, and that is an impact of about $200,000 annually on our budget. And that number is typical. I mean, these are not charter schools with particularly higher level of tuition or something like that. Is that sort of represent us?
Yeah, so the tuition rate for charter schools is, I don't want to use the word fixed, but it is the same across all charter
Our
and
district,
cyber charter
it's
schools.
set. Right.
Yes.
Right, okay.
So regardless of which charter or cyber charter they would go to, it's the same tuition rate set differently.
Yeah. No, I just think that's an important number for the community to know and to keep in mind, and that these decisions do have consequences on our budgets, which I think people know, but that's a pretty large consequence.
And if I can just add to that, so we know in our long-range plan that the trend tends to be about an 11% increase year over year. However, when we're budgeting, we try to use real-time data in terms of the number of students enrolled at this time and apply the rates that we anticipate for next year. And so that's why it sort of changes throughout the budget process. So rather than just automatically applying that full 11% for next year, we try to be more strategic about that. And so as we move through the process, we tend to see it go up. I mean, the enrollment tends to continue to increase and not go down. So just a little extra explanation related to that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Whitney. Additional comments, questions? Ms. Bowman.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. I'm just trying to understand the charter school amount. It was my understanding that it costs about $15,000 to educate a student at Penn State. I'm sorry, at East Penn. I just went to Penn State graduation over the weekend. Sorry, it's a reason that came out of my mouth. And sometimes more if they're special ed. just doing the back of the napkin math on the number that you said that it's costing to send them to charter school, it sounds like we're paying way more than we're actually paying to educate students here. How does that tuition get calculated?
There's a very specific and prescriptive formula that is defined by the Pennsylvania Department of Education. I'm happy to share that computation with the board, but essentially it's based on the district's budgeted expenditures for the year.
Okay.
And it uses those as the basis for the calculation.
Okay. All right.
And just to that point, I mean, the breakdown of that was 3 regular education students and 4 special education students. Because I had the same question.
Yeah.
200,000 felt like a lot.
Yeah.
But it was really because it was more heavily weighted with the special education students.
That answers that question. This relates to something else I was wondering about, and you don't have to have an answer to it now. I have noticed that it looks like overall our enrollment is dropping, but it's really only dropping at the high school level. That it's holding steady at the elementary and middle school, and then in the past several years we lost about 200 students a year at the high school level, it looks like. Are we losing them to charter schools, to private schools? Like, what's happening that the enrollment's going down at that point?
I mean, certainly we could take a look at the enrollment observations that you've made. I will say, as we continue to, on an annual basis, have our demographic and our enrollment reviewed, our numbers are consistent with what the projections were, but we can look more carefully in terms of to where those students are going when they leave.
I think it's, the reason I wonder about it is that if we're losing them at a specific time in their education, is there something that we're missing in our high school experience that would keep them here? So that's why I brought that up. And then you mentioned the slight differences in expenditures and income that's coming into the district, and that it doesn't really change the tax increase, but does it change at all the projected deficit or any of the other, I'm sorry, I shouldn't ask such an open-ended question. Does it just change the deficit is the main thing I'm wondering about?
I think let me clarify, what I think you're asking is that deficit that you saw in those future years in the long-range plan, not necessarily in the 25-26 budget.
Both, because we have a deficit in this budget as well, correct?
Yeah, again, I'll sort of reiterate that $1 million deficit is the planned use of fund balance for the technology project. So when we close out the year, we always hope, and it is typical, that we close out the year in a slightly better position, right? So we contribute to fund balance. And so the technology, the use of those funds for technology is a way to continue to be able to fund the technology projects that we need, but also use part of that fund balance that accumulates over time. So that's a planned and very strategic, if you want to call it a structural deficit for 25-26. In terms of the future years, that was really related to the realignment project. And we have met with our financial team and have worked on that, and we will bring back to the board at the June meeting an updated projection where you'll see that those are sort of worked out of the plan, or we've worked them out so that they're not there.
Okay, thank you. If I might reflect a bit more, if you don't mind, just because both Dr. Whitney and Ms. Bowman brought up what I think are really astute observations about cyber charter costs. You talked about enrollment, and so I wanted to also just give a little bit more insight to that. We too, as a district team, carefully monitor our cyber enrollment and students that leave us. I want to say that our counselors at our buildings, as well as our administrators, do a great job. If we have students who indicate that they're planning to withdraw to go to a cyber charter, to certainly attempt to connect with the student, depending on the age or the family, to identify what it is that's perhaps lacking from their current experience or what they're looking for. We have our VESPA program, of which we're very proud, and I will say we really we put a high level of support in that virtual learning platform, that online learning model. But I will say that as a team, our district team does hold students accountable for completing work. And so I'm also going to be completely honest, we have a really hard time recruiting families back once they leave, not to go to VESPA, but go to an outside cyber charter. Recently, our local IU facilitated a meeting with local legislators, with CLIU county superintendents, and we had really great dialogue in terms of advocating for continuing to look at the cyber funding model. We as educators see the value in choice. We recognize that an in-person brick and mortar learning environment might not be best for everyone. And so we are not opposed to option. We offer choice. We offer an online model. What we're really concerned with is the funding model, because Dr. Whitney, as you pointed out, 7 students at $200,000 approximately. You go back to our priority presentation in April, $200,000 is 6 instructional assistants for us.
Right.
$200,000 is just about 2 professional staff positions for us, so it matters. And so we look at that information very carefully. Not always. Sometimes we see that families that we're looking and students that we're looking to hold accountable and support here in person might not want that high level of support or oversight from us, and so sometimes they leave for reasons that aren't always about the educational environment and maybe other things. But again, we do try really hard to understand the kernel or the nugget of what is it that we're not giving you, what can we do differently, attempt when it's appropriate to invite families to our VESPA model. But I will also say, if it's students or families who we don't see being committed or the right learner for an online model, we won't just put them in our VESPA program to say, okay, go on VESPA. Like we are committed to helping kids be successful. And so I just wanted to provide that further insight that we really do try. And we too are concerned because it's a significant amount of taxpayer dollars that, again, it's not about the choice piece as much as it is the oversight of the cyber charters as well as the funding model.
I'll just add one more piece to that is it's not always necessarily students who are on our buildings who have decided to leave. If a family lives in another district and they're enrolled in the cyber charter and the family moves to our district, we may never even see those students and they continue enrolled in the cyber charter. If you think about April, that's the time of year when a lot of real estate transactions occur. And so, I firmly believe in looking at the invoices that some of these students were not even our students. They were the result of individuals moving into our district who had made that decision from wherever they lived previously. So that's another factor.
Yeah, and actually a really great point that I will say we are very much also looking carefully at residency and realizing that there is absolutely, and again, it's a personnel and a resource use that we need to dedicate, but we absolutely have to do the process of verifying that those cyber charter students for whom we're paying tuition are actually district residents.
Well, thank you very much for those additional comments. Other comments, questions? Ms. Ford?
Dr. Campbell, thank you for sharing that last part, because I was sitting here thinking, like, does anyone go over all of the roles to just ensure? Because, we're a big district and there are lots of students, and I would imagine even if you found one that wasn't, really in the right, it matters.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Dr. Whitney?
And yes, thank you, Dr. Campbell, for that extra context as well. And just for the benefit of the public community, anyone who may not be aware, there is cyber charter reform legislation that is currently stalled out essentially in our state legislature. I'll actually be in Harrisburg tomorrow. I'm excited to go for the Pennsylvania School Boards Association Advocacy Day, meeting with some of our local legislators, and the number one issue on that agenda is cyber charter reform for all the school board representatives that are going, because, and then it just shows the importance of right-sizing the tuition for cyber charter schools and trying to prevent situations like this from happening, where we're getting giant holes in our budget from students choosing that. And I'm also for educational choice. I'm also for families being able to make the choices that are best for them. But I think, as you say, when East Penn is offering a similar option, I think it would behoove people to at least take a look at it. And if it's not right for them, then it's not right for them. But the reform, the legislative reform, is really critical and really has to be passed. For not just East Penn, but for all the school districts. So if anyone wants to advocate to their local legislators, especially those in the state Senate, to move that through, that would be remarkable. Thanks.
Thank you for that timely
Dr.
reminder.
Levinson, I'm
Yes.
sorry. May I just share some information? You may recall that along that line, the governor proposed a $8,000 cap on cyber charter, regular cyber charter tuition. We have calculated the impact of that, and it's a little over $1 million. It's like $1,070,000. So again, during your advocating, that may be helpful to have in your back pocket.
Very helpful
but
number to have
also
in
just
mind.
in general,
Thank you.
like you
I was
can
going to
see
ask you
the-
for some numbers, so that's a great one.
You can
Thank
see the impact of that type of reform.
Yeah, great.
Thank you very much for that. Additional comments or questions from the board? Okay. Well, I guess I'll just close. Again, I appreciate the continued attention to refine the numbers, to bring us towards a final budget that's going to be presented on the 9th. So I am pleased to hear, that was one of my questions, about how our projected fund balance is going to look over the next 5 years. So, the continued review of the realignment plan and other impacts to the budget, I'm glad to hear that the fund balance is returning to healthy territory in the 5-year projections. And again, I think that's an important to note that, we are definitely conscious of what goes into budget prep and trying to be or accomplishing the goal of being fiscally responsible moving forward. I do want to recognize the effort, the continuous effort and refinement of the property tax rebate program. That's something that I think I did it at the end of 2019, brought this before the board in order to look at that program, because it hadn't been updated in a while, and so I'm pleased that we continue to look at that and find ways that remain cost effective for the district, and obviously then also help those and are most vulnerable, and providing them with property tax relief. I guess finally, it is clear that our budget is very tight, probably one of the tightest in terms of describing what we're trying to do. It does include the maximum 4%. Obviously, that's significant in that we are going up against the maximum, whereas in most years we were able to bring that down. But obviously, we've been explained in tremendous detail what the pressures are on our budget, and trying to maintain our programs and bring resources that have proven efficacious to student outcomes, and try and make those permanent moving forward. I will just make one final note, on the support for new band uniforms. Obviously, we had a few speakers tonight who spoke passionately about that. In the grand scheme of things, in a budget that's near $200 million, 100,000 doesn't sound like a lot, but again, because this is very tight, it is going to take some analysis and finagling to try and bring that back into the fold. Obviously there aren't going to be we can't make any guarantees tonight, but I think there is definitely support within this board and with the community to try and bring that in this year. I thought it was an interesting point that, band uniforms take 6 to 9 months to manufacture. So if we were to put this off for another year, it could be another year before they actually come in, and we'd be really up against, the full lifetime of those uniforms and, and then, the size of the band. So again, I'll just bring that back to ensure that we keep that part of the conversation moving forward, and what we're going to bring forward on the 9th. Again, appreciate the continued effort, as a district, we certainly are trying to show support for all these aspects of academics and extracurriculars that go on here. We are fortunate to have a community that does support that in general, and we certainly are trying our best to remain fiscally responsible and again, try to balance everything that goes into that. So if there's nothing, Ms. Bowman.
I'm sorry, it's just something you said reminded me of something I wanted to highlight. When I think it was the band directors that mentioned this, and Dr. Campbell, you may have mentioned this during your comments during the priorities presentation, but I sort of missed it then. And I just want to highlight how wonderful is it that our band is almost at the capacity of the number of uniforms that we have. I mean, it's a problem that we may not have enough uniforms for next year, but when we bought those uniforms, and whenever it was 12 years ago, that number of uniforms must have been more than enough. And so that means that our band has really grown, interest in the band has grown. And I think that says a lot for not only the students, but also the band directors and the whole school community. So I just thought that detail was really wonderful to hear. And like everybody else, because it's a one-time expenditure that's not ongoing, I'm hoping that we can find a way to make that happen.
Okay, thank you for that.
But one more note.
One more note?
Just one more
Ms.
note
Ford?
about the band. I think to myself, I probably don't own any item of clothing that's 12 to 13 years old. And so the idea of, holding on to something, and even if I did have an item that was that old, it would be out of style or definitely worn. So I'm hoping we can do better, especially when I hear all of the students who went on to some spectacular schools and continued the band tradition. And yes, we also know all the information of, the correlation between learning and students who do academically better because of the musical connection. And so anything we can do in that vein that's going to, lend students the opportunity to do academically better through music is a win-win. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Okay, again, thank you for everybody's comments. We look forward to continued work and what we're going to see on June 9th. Okay, next item on the agenda is a long-awaited presentation on the K-8 realignment schematic design presentation. Dr. Campbell, would you like to introduce?
Sure. And if our Breslin team wants to come forth just while we get started. All right, excellent, thank you. Our team is, thank you for that introduction, Dr. Levinson. Our team is excited to provide the board and the community with an update on our continued work with the K-8 realignment plan. As a brief reminder, when we talk about that K-8 realignment plan, that plan is one in which our 5th grade would be removed from the elementary buildings, creating K-4 buildings at the elementary level. And our intent is to realign our middle schools so that one building, Eyre, will be a 5-6 building, and the other building, Lower Macungie Middle School, will be a 7-8 building. And all of those changes are scheduled to take place in the 28-29 school year. In preparation for this work, We've partnered with Breslin Architects. You're going to hear from the Breslin team in just a minute. Also, CHA Construction Management Firm. You will hear from them at a future meeting. And we've provided the community with ongoing updates, in particular, public presentations this year on the process. Specifically, as a reminder, in October of 2024, we reviewed our facilities and programmatic planning, the committee structure. We provided project schedules and milestones for those projects. We then came back to the board in February of 2025 and provided a detailed overview of the programmatic recommendations for K4, 5, 6, and 7, 8. We talked about the student support suites that we have planned for the 5, 6, and 7, 8 buildings. And then we also talked about athletics, activities, and the arts at both the 5, 6, and the 7, 8 levels. In addition to those public presentations, we maintain our outward-facing realignment webpage. That includes an active FAQ. We've released multiple written updates to the community, and we've met with approximately 100 community stakeholders 3 times throughout the year to present updates and then hear feedback on our planning. And we're currently in the process of providing updates to all of our 10 buildings at their faculty meetings that are wrapping up in the next 2 weeks. And so this evening, we have Mr. Behrens and Mr. Steve Behrens and Mr. Brian Huber from Breslin Architects, and they're here to present the schematic design for the 5, 6, and the 7, 8 buildings. These designs that you'll have a chance to really delve into reflect the facility needs that are essential to fulfill the programmatic vision that we articulated back in February. In addition, the Breslin team will review the project schedules, and they will provide a high-level summary of the project budgets. Please note that those budgets and the financial plan will really be unpacked or reviewed in much greater detail at our June 9th board meeting. So tonight's presentation is information only, and the focus is specifically on the schematic design piece of things, really the physical spaces at both Eyre and Lower Macungie Middle School. And we're going to delve much deeper into the financial information at a future meeting. So at this point, I'm going to turn things over to Steve and Brian and appreciate their continued partnership in this work.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell and board members for this opportunity to be here this evening to present the schematic design. As Dr. Campbell mentioned, my name is Steve Behrens. I'm a principal at Breslin Architects. With me is Mr. Brian Huber, who is the project architect. The schematic design really represents the initial phase, setting out the general requirements of the project relative to scope and budget and priorities. And with that, related to these particular projects, we looked at the 4 criteria that are on the screen here this evening. So satisfying those program priorities that were established last fall, then right-sizing the project based on the projected enrollment, we are dealing with 2 existing buildings, so utilizing the existing spaces within those buildings in an efficient, effective way, and then benchmarking against other intermediate schools and middle schools relative to the grade realignment. Not benchmarking in a prescriptive manner, but really in an instructive way to help develop this grade realignment a little further. So we have had about 16 meetings as a team with the district stakeholders. We began in the fall of 2024, and it's been a very, very effective process to date. So relative to the enrollment, we spoke about enrollment just a few minutes ago. So this is the picture of the projections that we've been working with. The April 2025 current enrollment for Eyre and LMMS are about 800 students and about 1,000 students respectively. The realigned enrollment based on the grade levels for Eyre at 5-6 level would be almost 1,100 students, and LMS would be 1,261 students. When we then look at the 10-year projected enrollment of that new grade realignment, we see a substantial growth, and that's up to about 1,300 students for Iyer and 1,369 students for LMS. Those reflect the 2025, the current year Power School projections out with looking at the maximum for the next 10 years. So as we explored this process and moved forward with the program and the educational specifications, which became clarified and then was presented to the board in the fall of last year, we identified out of that specification about a need for growth for both buildings. So the existing buildings sizes are there at the top of the screen, about 195,000 gross square feet for Iyer, 175,000 for LMS. When we looked at the requirements of the program that was established back in November, it represented, based on growth in needs for space, 232,000 square feet for Iyer and 270,000 square feet for LMS. So then we began the process of looking for efficiencies, which is a natural part of the process of design. And then through December and February and leading up to March of this year, we found ways to leverage the existing spaces within the building, looked at ways to economize and make more efficient use of the space, look for places to overlap and that sort of thing. So we brought those numbers down. As you can see, they're substantially in March, which would yield the plans that you'll see before you this evening, of about 208,000 square feet at Iyer and 253,000 square feet at LMS. And when you compare that to the existing building size, that's then what generates the required additions of 13,000 and 78,000 respectively. So we really feel like those are the size of the building that represent the minimum requirements to address the program needs that have been put forth. So now we'll look at each individual school. We'll start with Iyer. So this is an existing site plan. I'm going to use the pointer on this screen over here, so I'm not shining in anyone's eyes. Apologize to the board members stage left. It's a little harder for you to see, but I'll try to be descriptive as I go through it. So the existing campus for Iyer obviously includes both the additional elementary schools of Macungie and Shoemaker, and it's a tight site. It's been expressed that way to us. We've identified some needs with respect to site circulation. I should say, as part of the due diligence and early design phases, we have full site surveys for both sites. We've engaged with the traffic analysis of both sites. We have even begun stormwater management calculations. We've met with the township. And so the engagement with the local authorities has begun, and all of that informs the results that you see before you this evening, and very important part of the process moving forward. So then if we look at the proposed site plan, that you'll begin to see just some modest changes on the site, the addition of some additional parking to address the staff needs of the expanded Iyer, a small building addition up on the East Macungie Avenue side of the building. And these are, again, very targeted site interventions on the site to address the needs relative to the expansion of the building. As we look at the building floor plan itself, we're rotating 90 degrees. So East Macungie Road is now on the right-hand side of the screen. So this is the existing floor plan. And with each iteration here of the floor plan, we'll show you the existing floor plan and then the proposed. So as we look at these plans, you'll see different color coding to it. The
orange or terracotta color represents building additions, so that's new footprint being added on to the building. The lighter tan color is areas of what we call heavy renovation, so areas where it's essentially a gut of the existing space to be majorly reconfigured for new program spaces. And the dark gray is areas of the building where there's a lighter level of alteration. So perhaps walls are staying in similar locations, but we're having to renovate the interior of those spaces. And then the lightest gray is not program-driven space, but a response to the capital plan needs. So with the development of the schematic design of the project, we are looking very carefully at the capital needs that were revealed in the feasibility study stage. So we're wrapping those in where appropriate to these projects. So as we look at the reconfiguration for the grade realignment of IRE, we identified that that the floor plan lends itself to developing academic houses. So with the newer wing from the 90s on the left-hand side of the plan, the core facilities in the middle, the related arts, the performing arts, the library, and then another bank of classrooms and educational spaces on the right-hand side. So to balance that out for creating a fifth grade and a sixth grade house, if you will, within the building, we are balancing that with the addition on the right-hand side of the plan. So that allows us to provide a nice separation between those academic areas and then meeting in the middle with the core facilities. So the improvements that are depicted here are upgrades to the existing administration suite of the building, new secure entry scenario, improvements there. The building addition, as I mentioned, within the core facility, really supporting some of those exciting new program spaces like Innovate, creating spaces suitable for that. And making that center core area of the building really energized for those new programs. Also addressing the educational support needs. This is the second floor plan of the building as it exists. Again, if we look at the renovated and addition areas, you'll see the second floor area of the building addition. And then again, the light tan areas being areas of heavy renovation. That's to support autistic support, emotional support, and then to create two what we're calling house admin suites. So on the fifth grade side of the building and sixth grade side of the building, we have a dedicated admin suite, and that's being fleshed out with the necessary support staff areas to bring that support, that administrative interaction with the education spaces closer to those. And then the center area of the building where those pod classrooms are, we're renovating to modernize that and then improve the existing library with a new entrance and new support spaces to augment that experience there in the library. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian to walk us through the exterior design concept as it's developing for IRE Middle School.
Thank you, Steve. I'm excited to share our kind of preliminary take on how the buildings will begin to form. We're going to start with an animation. We're starting at the corner, kind of near the corner of Buckeye Road and East Macungie, looking back at the building. The existing building is on the right, and the new addition is that left mass there. You can see with the shape of the new addition, we are referencing some of the sloped roof elements that are on the existing building. It's a two-story classroom wing with 8 classrooms. We are going into the hill that leads up to the sports field behind us here. That allows us to create some outdoor space. And then this is the back of the addition. Running through some still images, this is a view of the new addition. We're starting to look at materials. Here we're proposing, basically referencing the materials on the existing building, matching the brick, incorporating some limestone between the windows. The limestone is found throughout on other parts of the existing building. Another view here, we're also studying sunshade elements. That's this horizontal band here. We like to do that to, we encourage a lot of natural light into classrooms, but we want to be able to control that. And so this is a way to do it passively to control the sun glare coming in. It's another view, again, how the building starts to creep into that hillside leading to the sports field, and then we create a little retaining wall there, which creates that outdoor space in the back, a protected outdoor space for outdoor learning. And then you can also see in the back portion here is the existing building, and we are adding some windows into that existing portion into some of the newly renovated classroom spaces. So we'll move on to Laura McCungy.
Thank you, Brian. So as we look at the existing site plan for Lower McCungy Middle School, you'll see it's a larger site, less congested in terms of building infrastructure, but yet the building is sort of tucked into the corner of the site, creating some challenges for considering how to add on to the building. A couple other important site features to indicate would be an existing stormwater management basin, large one, along the golf course side of the building. Also a pipeline easement that runs right about through the middle of the site, which limits our ability to cross or put things on top of that easement, and then some existing swales that are stormwater management features that need to be maintained, and really carve the site into drainage areas that we respond to with the site layout. So this is the proposed site plan. We're seeing a building addition in the front of the building, some reconfiguration of the parking and driveways. What we're trying to do there is create a more effective distinction between the bus and car traffic and provide additional parking for the enlarged building. Also, an additional driveway access point to reduce congestion and allow for, again, separate bus and car vehicular access to the site. And then the introduction of a few more athletic facilities onto the site to support the growing need at this building for that. As we start to zoom in and look at the building, this is oriented in the same way as you saw on the site plan. This is the existing floor plan. And you'll recall there's a couple different locations for access to the building. And then sort of a long setback between the bus and car drop-off area to the existing building. If we introduce the new plan here, you can see how we're building out in front of the building with two distinct volumes. Excuse me, I back up. An athletic addition volume, and then a three-story classroom wing volume as well. And then at the rear of the building, an expansion of the cafeteria. So one of the main program requirements was, as related to the core facilities of the building, was providing an expansion of the cafeteria, which is needed to address the growing population. So the other aspect of the addition being out front was really creating a new unified main entry to the building that would be well positioned for evening activities, access to the athletics, and then the performing arts venues, and then also to secure entry to a new administration suite. So really bringing the building up to current standards in that regard. So this is the first floor plan, and in addition to the gymnasium for the athletic addition, there's also some locker rooms and an auxiliary gym area, a large lobby that creates a new entry focal point to the building, the three-story the three-story classroom wing that houses the new administration, as well as classrooms. And then as we work back through and we see the tan areas, that's a new health suite reconfigured in that area, as well as, again, some support spaces for the library. If we look back towards the cafeteria, there's a new tech ed suite of rooms and an expansion of the cafeteria that is sort of expanding that existing volume and making a new grand open area behind that. And then we did reserve some space for exterior play area or outdoor or dining perhaps, but just an area at the back where we can leverage that area for really its current use as well, which is a recess area. And then if we move up the plan to the second floor, this gives you a really good sense of how the new classroom wing connects the existing three-story classroom wing back to the heart of the building. We heard through the design process that the building could benefit from some additional vertical circulation, stair towers within the building to ease congestion at some of the bottleneck points in the building. And so this location, this addition really allows us to reach back into the heart of the building with not only more classroom space, but also some vertical circulation. And then right at the elbow, if you will, of the plan is a new house admin suite again that would allow for good surveillance of and interaction with the classroom wing. So whereas I described a partie to the building at Ayer of two sides of the 5-6 arrangement with the core facilities in the middle, here it's more of a stacked arrangement where we're expanding that existing three-story classroom wing and stacking that program. So vertically, we have one of those house admin suites on each floor. If we go up to the third floor, you'll also see that floor plate repeated. And again, a similar arrangement where you can get back down right into the heart of the building at the lobby through the new stair tower in that area. I'll turn it over to Brian again to walk us through the exterior concept for LMS.
Okay. Again, starting with an animation. We are on the end of the existing classroom wing. And as we come around, this is the facade you see from Lower Macungie Road. Just a few things to note are the use of materials that we're looking at, the different color bricks, the window and mullion patterns we're studying of the existing building. You can also see the feature out front of the existing library there. And as we turn around the trees here, this is then the addition, the new addition off to the left. The classroom wing, a new feature for the school aligned with the driveway. As you come down, looking at materials, a complementary material that able to showcase this new classroom wing, which then leads you back to the new main entrance, a double height lobby with secure vestibule. A new entry plaza and drop-off area located in between those two wings, the classroom wing and that athletic wing to the left. That's the volume of the gym behind those large translucent windows. And then off to the side, is a side entrance, kind of like an athletic entrance that leads out to the athletic fields behind us in this image. So just walking through that again, main concept here is taking inspiration from the existing library feature, but contrasting it with a complementary material where that is more grounded on the site. We see the new classroom wing as being lifted off the ground, which then draws you to that new main entrance, new focal point for the building. So a little bit back, you can see the parking out front, the new driveway, and drop-off, the classroom wing on the right, the athletic wing on the left. You can see how we position that so that it almost funnels you into that new main entrance in the center. This is the new main entrance and new plaza. You can see the double height lobby space beyond, and also that the new secure vestibule adjacent to the admin space. The volume of the new gym is prominent here. We're looking at some kind of translucent glazing system. This is beneficial, it brings in a lot of light into the gym, but again, controls the glare. And then also another nice feature is that at night, when the lights are on in that space, it will appear to glow, and you'll see that from the street. So it highlights a really great amenity that this project would be adding for the community in that second gym. And then again, this is that side of the building with that side entrance leading to the new sports fields, expanded sports fields behind us. And just a little bonus image of, in our new addition, we create a couple of outdoor courtyard spaces that separates the existing building from the new. And this is just one example. This is the space that's created behind the new double height lobby. So just creating, protected and outdoor environments that the students and faculty can use.
Thanks, Brian. So now moving on to some schedule conversation. So these are essentially two schedules that are familiar. They have not changed substantially through the course here of design. They've adjusted slightly to represent the defined dates here for the approval of the schematic design phase. But these are comprehensive project schedules that show the totality, the high-level view that we're working towards. This indicates each phase of the project through completion. So right now we are in the end of the schematic design phase. This schedule the diamonds indicate board action here. So at the conclusion of each phase is board action. And you'll see that right here, we're at the completion of the schematic design phase. We would be beginning the next phase, which is design development. And simultaneous with that, beginning the land development process. There's a lot of approvals required for these projects. They take time, so we want to launch that, start that clock as quickly as possible. We began that process with conversations with the township not long ago. So with the design development phase is where we will look deeply into each space within the building and begin to explore the design of those spaces with the stakeholders. In this case, we'd begin that process almost immediately here in the design development phase. Then that would, for LMMS, that would complete around September, and then we would begin the construction document phase where that approved design development product then becomes a full-fledged set of construction documents that then are ultimately bid and constructed. And then we're looking at a phased construction period. So this is Obviously, something we need to carefully look at. We've begun already phase construction on an existing building in both cases. We'll be looking very carefully at safety and security and managing the important school functions and having the construction work around that as best as we can with new additions constructed as well as summer work, getting things done in a timely manner so that we can disrupt the educational process as little as possible. If we turn to IRE, it's a similar process, obviously, similar phases, but we would begin to move slightly out of phase. So up until now, through the programming and schematic design, these projects have been really running in parallel as we seek to take a comprehensive view, look at things and provide an equitable solution across the grade levels. As we get into the more detailed design, they will slip out of phase of one another. So we would put off the beginning of design development for IRE just a little bit and conclude it just a little bit later. And then when we move into the construction document phase that follows that, then we would truly separate them and so that we can have a consistent team both with the district as well as with the design team and the construction management team looking at those things in sequence. And then again, a phased construction period, both of these schedules leading up to our grade realignment in the fall of 2028. As we drill a little deeper into the near-term phase with this milestone schedule here, again, diamonds represent items of board action, dots represent board presentations, similar to the one we're seeing tonight with regard to the schematic design. And then as we move into that next phase of design development, we're starting to look at the development of the drawings, the meetings with stakeholders, the fine-tuning of the budget and the phasing and the cost estimates that will occur with that, with the team members and with collaboration with CHA. And so we've developed a carefully planned next step phase for design development for both buildings, and that's represented here. Then as we look at the project budget, as Dr. Campbell mentioned earlier, we're going to go into greater detail with the upcoming financial presentation. But just to give you the high-level picture here on a single slide, just really to lay the groundwork and help you to understand how we're going about that process now. We're developing a preliminary budget for each building. That's broken down into some large categories here with respect to the building cost, the site construction cost. At this stage, we build in healthy and appropriate design and bidding contingencies, phasing contingencies. And so that builds out to be a total estimated construction cost, what would be part of the bids. That's often referred to as the hard cost of construction. The other piece of the puzzle is the soft cost. So that's the fees and permits and financing and all those aspects that are not part of the bids, but it's still important for the delivery of a complete project. That is an estimate for each building in that regard at this time. And then that builds a total estimated project cost, which is about $35 million at present for IRE, $60 million for Lower Macungie. You combine the two, it's just around $95 million at this time. And again, as we mentioned earlier, we're not forgetting about the remainder of the capital plan costs associated with each building. These are renovation addition projects, so the portions of the existing building remain. We know that that costs will be incurred moving forward over the 10 years that the capital campaign or the capital plan looks. And so we don't want to forget about that in the planning. So there's a number associated with each building there. That's been vetted very carefully with respect to the scope of the projects itself. And that total combined capital plan cost is around $20 million for both buildings combined. And again, this was developed in collaboration with CHA. So that's the presentation. And now, thank you for your attention. A lot of information there presented, but we want to open it up to questions.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. A lot of great detail. I'd like to open up the floor to the board. Ms. Klotz?
Thank you for the presentation and the detail. Obviously, you've put a lot of work into this. As far as the costs go, are tariffs included in this?
So that is an item that is very much on folks' minds these days. So we do have healthy contingencies built into these things. I think that will definitely be a subject of conversation at the finance presentation. But yes, those are the kinds of things that we begin to try to account for in the contingencies of the project.
Okay, so I'm sorry. So is that a no for now, but in the future we'll look at it? Or just a general idea?
Right, yes, that will be a topic of conversation at the upcoming finance presentation, yes. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
I just had a couple of I had two quick questions about Laura McCountry specifically. I think the design looks beautiful. I mean, all the way that you took the inspiration from the library and the glass of the library and like incorporated it throughout is certainly it looks fantastic. My question is regarding the seeing all the glass makes me think about safety and all of the terrible things that can go wrong in a site that big. Have you begun to think about what kind of physical safety measures need to be incorporated into design to mitigate some of the concerns about things like all of that glass? Looks fantastic, but from a safety standpoint, it brings me a lot of concern. I know that some of the safety pieces that we might, and we don't have to go into detail right now, but a lot of the safety components that we would physically put into a design like this don't look so great, in a architectural rendering like this. So I'm just curious if that's part of the discussion yet at this point, or are we just talking about facility layout and the number of classrooms and a couple of materials here or there?
Great question. The answer to that is integrated into the design from day one.
Okay.
So there's environmental security starting at the driveway and moving in. There's layered security developed with respect to the approach to the building, the secure vestibule, the admin suite. It's really the concept of security is, of course, ever evolving with consideration. But one of the things that's come to light lately is glass. For example, you mentioned glazing. Yes, there's certain levels of physical security and physical barriers that you can build in based on the type of glazing. But there's also just the understanding that a fortress mentality of little to no glazing is not actually the safest thing. It creates an environment, and there's studies emerging about environmental design. For example, the opposite is true. If you want to be able to see out and see what and whom is approaching the building, and be able to prepare or react appropriately to it. So it's a carefully studied issue that we integrate from the very beginning of the project. So yes, we are talking about that now. But as we move into the next phase, the design development, that's where the details of that, what kind of glazing goes where, how does somebody physically enter through the different layers into the, how do you, from the outside, how are you vetted through the various layers to actually going from outside the building to into the corridor system? And even though it looks inviting, it looks welcoming, there are still those robust security features in place. Because every day, all the time, this needs to be an inviting, effective, welcoming environment for the community to engage. In those rare instances where we need that physical security, that needs to be integrated as well. So it's a balance.
Thank you.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. Okay. Certainly, I'm interested to hear more about that, and we'll probably talk about that at a later date. But I'm glad that's part of the consideration. The other question I had, and this may require some more conversations at the township level. I noticed that we have another entrance into the campus. We're moving from one entrance, which currently has a light there, to now having the bus entrance and a separate car entrance. What kind of traffic measures do we anticipate being added? Are we adding another light at the car drop-off entrance? Is there, and I'm not insinuating there should be, but is there any sort of traffic calming measures along that Lower Macungie Road between there? It's a pretty busy road, and I recognize that would cause quite a bit of adjustment on the part of the traffic flow there. But I'm curious as to what that might look like, or what conversations around that has been so far.
Yeah, that conversation has started as well. So right now, a traffic study has been solicited on behalf of the district. The meetings to establish the scope of that with both PennDOT and the township have occurred, so that you will actually be seeing that those studies occurring here. The idea is to try to get that accomplished before school's out, so that we can get accurate traffic counts. So with respect to specific features such as traffic calming or signalization, that comes out of the study. So those would be warrants based on the traffic flow, not only analyzing the existing patterns, but the proposed patterns. And yes, so there is conversation about how do we handle in and out traffic, and that's ongoing as we speak. So what sort of off-site improvements may be required as part of the project have not been completely defined yet. Another reason for contingencies in the budget at the moment, but that will evolve over the next few months, and we'll be bringing that back to you as appropriate as those results are discovered.
Okay. I'm actually almost curious if maybe some of the signaling could even be removed if we're taking, if we're spreading out the access to the property into two different entrances. I'm wondering if that might spread out the demand of that one particular entrance, but I don't know. I'm not a traffic study guru, so I'll leave that to the people that are better at that than I am. So thank you on both accounts, those answers to my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Kelly?
One of my questions was along the traffic flow lines, and it was for IRE though. I see improvements to the traffic flow with LMS, but is there any way to improve that with IRE? I know even the flow out of the building for the middle school and for the elementaries at the same time makes it really difficult in the surrounding areas, and also the borough itself gets pretty congested. So I didn't know if there was a way to, or if you had taken that into account with IRE.
Yes, the same process is occurring with the Ire site, so there'll be studies there as well. Obviously, the difference here is having multiple buildings on the same site, so it's a little bit more of a complex analysis. But yes, that's occurring now as well, and that gets influenced by the transportation component of serving the different grade levels on the site. That's taken into consideration. And yes, we're very much aware, and the township won't let us forget those elements of the congestion. So we're looking at that as well. And but yet still being mindful of the overall budget, because some of the early iterations showed more large-scale reconstruction of the site, but just the budget doesn't allow for that at this time. So in a prudent way, spending the money in a very targeted way, and that will come out of that traffic study as well, what needs to be done here on this site. And it may end up ultimately requiring more than what we have shown, but again, we'll be negotiating that and making it the most effective that we can within the budget that's available.
My other question was going to be also about security, and I don't know if there's a way to just kind of highlight some of the, to let the public know of that as this process goes on, more of some of the security improvements, because that is just an incredible hot button issue, and so it's nice to hear about that, and I appreciate that question. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kelly. Dr. Whitney.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, and thanks for all the hard work that went into getting it this far. I have several questions. A couple of them are larger scale, and some are smaller. I guess I'll start with the smaller scale questions. At LMMS, it was hard to tell. I guess I didn't count. Are there parking spaces being lost? And if so, how many?
Brian?
So I can't speak to a specific number being lost, but we know how many we need based on the projected capacity of the building.
Okay.
And so that's what we are providing for. Actually,
Gotcha.
we actually are showing a little bit more than we need currently at the moment. So that's
Great.
still being refined.
Great. Yeah, that's mostly what I need to know. This is a little bit of a random question, but I saw that at Ire, there is a quiet lunchroom. I didn't see a similar space at LMMS, and are we saying did we decide that's not a space that's needed, or is it something that would be considered, or is it something that's there and I just didn't see it?
It's here. So again, I understand it's hard to read these plans, but if you look right here.
Okay.
So there's the main cafeteria with its expansion, and then a quiet lunch there as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I just missed it. Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a question for administration, maybe for you. These very nice looking outdoor spaces that are part of both school designs, the renderings, what will those outdoor spaces be? I mean, I see seating. Is there a sense of or a plan for what those spaces will be other than just gathering spaces?
That will develop as we move forward. So right now, the courtyards are a concept, and they have both the educational opportunities that you described, but they're also constructability and safety features. So creating space between the new addition and the existing building helps with fire separation. It allows, you can imagine walking the corridor system, being able to look outside and see natural elements from within the building, a concept called biophilia that we integrate into the designs. And then, yes, ultimately accessing that space and leveraging it for gathering. Again, the sky's the limit now. We'll explore that more as we move forward.
Great, yeah. To be clear, I'm in favor of outdoor spaces. I don't want to make it sound like I don't think they're necessary.
Yeah,
So
I
that's a
think-
good explanation, thanks.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Steve, and we are certain that our teachers and our students will use those spaces. It was helpful for Steve to reiterate like the architectural design purpose or intent behind them. It's not necessarily something that we went to them and said we want to design X number of courtyards, but they're part of there's a purpose for them in your design, and certainly there will be educational benefit for us.
Yeah, great, thank you for that. All right, so I'll just get to my two, I guess, larger scale questions. And one is, so as you detailed the process of efficiencies, and it looks like we, in that process, approximately 24K square feet at Ayer and about 17,000 square feet at LMMS were reduced. Can you give us some kind of an inventory of, or even a general inventory of what was lost in that process, or maybe lost is not the right term, but what was reduced? And an ancillary question to that is, does that reduction, do either of those reductions, are they going to lead to increased class sizes?
Yeah, each of these steps does represent kind of decisions that were made. We started with the educational specification, which you could partly say is kind of was a wish list from the committees, and so we analyzed that, and with our expertise and the benchmarking we mentioned by comparing to other schools. That helped us inform and make decisions and make recommendations. And so, yes, that does include aligning to what we call right sizing to the enrollment. So that does mean, yes, reduction of classrooms from where we started. But it still meets that kind of requirement that we heard and got from the administration. Another example is the second gym at LMMS. Again, where we started was a kind of a vision of what that ideal second athletic space would be, fitness, health, wellness space would be. But over those steps, yes, we've recommended reducing that size of that second gym. Part of that, again, is that benchmarking where it is a little unprecedented for a school to have two separate gyms. And so it therefore was a recommendation to reduce the size of that, but yet still meet those requirements. That second gym, you can still do regulation size court and games, but it might mean less bleacher seating.
Okay.
I get the other example I'll give is we may have had small group or intervention rooms. And so we had to very carefully go back and identify exactly those instructional spaces that were essential. And the second part of your question, the scope reduction in square footage does not impact class sizes for students.
Because we've right-sized to the projected enrollment at this point. Okay.
Yeah, and the other piece, I guess, to also generally respond to your question, the schematic design that you see tonight reflects two facilities that allow us to fulfill the programmatic vision that we previously articulated to the board and the community. And so, again, we are absolutely committed to scope reductions. We also are absolutely committed to the program and the vision that we set forth with the board and the community, and that's what you see tonight. And so it's, there is not a compromise to the integrity of the program that we hope to deliver.
Great, thank you.
If I can also just add, another element of that is analyzing the existing building. And so sometimes we look at those existing spaces and we're able to recommend that by utilizing the existing space, that still meets your need, but actually it results in an efficiency in our, let's say, the kind of the ideal program.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. Thank you. And that is a good segue to my final question or comment / question, which is that the LMMS, you mentioned the second gymnasium. I also see we have an absolute doubling of athletic fields and spaces of all types. And with the most due respect, it looks a bit absurd to me that we have that in a school of 1,300 students, that we need total duplication of athletic facilities when I'm looking at our high school. And yes, our high school has an auxiliary gym. So the two gyms I could see, but I want to hear the rationale. Convince me that this is a necessary piece of both the program and the design. I recognize we're planning to have 2 athletic teams at LMMS. It seems a bit strange to me that we would say, this is your field, green team, and this is your field, gold team. I don't quite understand the rationale for that, so I'd love to be convinced otherwise.
The rationale is a commitment to maintain at least the same number of PIAA middle school athletic teams. And so you're right, what we have designed for currently, and I appreciate your recognition of the gymnasium being that interior space, that we will have 2 basketball teams, 2 volleyball teams that both have a need for access to that facility. The intention of the duplication of the exterior facilities was a recognition of the fact that we have students who are on campus, and to avoid them having to, perhaps the inconvenience of sending them home and then being transported back to school for practice at a later time, if and I'm just gonna, for purposes of conversation tonight, refer to them as green and gold team. No decisions have been made about that. But
Sure.
if the green team is practicing field hockey from after school until 5 o'clock, that way the gold team they could have practice right after school as well. Certainly, is there the feasibility, is the possibility of looking at staggering games, staggering practice times? I think that's something we can continue to look at. Ultimately, because we had outlined that real commitment to maintaining at least the same number of opportunities that we currently have, that's what's reflected here.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, and maybe it's just the visual of looking at that layout and seeing so much of it dedicated to athletics fields, and not minimizing the importance, but it's visually a little hard to get my head around. And I don't have a better idea for what we should do with that space, by the way. And I recognize it's a lot of space that can be used somehow. And so I guess on the one hand, why not duplicate athletic fields with that space? But again, I just, I want to, it feels a little excessive to me, and I'll keep thinking about it, and
we will
hopefully
too.
think otherwise. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Whitney.
Yeah.
Ms. Bowman.
Yeah, I'll come back to Dr. Whitney's comment, but I want to ask a couple small questions of things that I think I may have misunderstood. So on slide 4, where you're talking about the enrollment, the realigned enrollment, and the 10-year projected max, is the 10-year projected max the max that fits in the building, or is that the max that we're expecting the enrollment to become?
The latter.
Okay.
So that's the actual number of students projected
Okay.
with the grade realignment to be in each respective school.
Okay. And so then this is where I think I'm having a misunderstanding, particularly at IRE. And maybe I heard you wrong, and that might be where the misunderstanding is coming from. Are there only 8 new classrooms at IRE?
Yes. So a previous plan had depicted 10.
Okay.
And so again, the process that Brian described in terms of how, as we dug into it deeper, can we leverage more of the interior spaces? Can we assess whether or not we need all of those instructional support spaces? Can we trim? And it was determined that we could trim on the interior of the existing building, and thereby reallocate space for classrooms that would then reduce the size of the addition. So that's a very practical example of what's depicted here. Because again, the proposed additions are the net difference between existing and proposed. So as that net difference was reduced, so was the size of the required addition.
And so is that how, because otherwise it doesn't look like the math works, like that number of classrooms might accommodate maybe 240 kids. I don't really know how you make your calculations. I'm sure I'm doing it in some way that's not official or even correct. But are the rest of, let's say you do get to that max enrollment, then you're looking at needing to accommodate as many as 500 kids. Is that from the reconfigured other spaces?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you. That answers that. Kind of nerdy question about the limestone. It's my understanding that that's a soft rock, right? Tends to sink. Is it just used only as a decorative feature on the buildings, like something that doesn't have a lot of weight on it?
Yes, it's a cladding, if you will. And in fact, the brick is the same way. So it's not supporting the building as in an old bearing wall, building would. There's a steel structure. In some cases, you can use masonry, and we'll explore that where it's efficient to do so. But no, the brick veneer, the limestone, those are cladding materials, not holding the building up, so to speak. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
That's what I thought, but I just wanted to check. And I think I just wanted to echo Dr. Whitney's comments, not only about the athletic spaces, but also about the, in both buildings, the second administration suites. I think all along I have not really understood, especially with the administration suites, the philosophy behind why it's needed. Not saying that I'm against it. I am really just saying I don't understand why it's needed. I think every other building I've ever been in has only ever had one, not one on each floor or one in different locations. And with the athletic fields, it does really seem like a lot when school is primarily about academics. And I think most people who have done athletics over their life probably have had the experience of sharing a field, whether it's the JV and the varsity team sharing a field and then scrimmaging against each other. It's really not, I did it multiple times over my athletic career, so I'm not sure why we need two different fields. When I think most of our students, whether they play travel team or youth league, have had the experience of sharing a field with another team. It's with the amount of costs in these projects, I'm not sure, and we can get into that more next time. It's just the case, I'm not sold on the need for those. So I don't really need a response to it now. It's something that you can get into when we talk about costs, but thank you.
I'll also just briefly reference your question about the admin suites. So it really is for those two buildings, Eyre and Lower Macungie, redesigning. There will still be a main office area that will have the building principal. And then the intention would be that those additional office suites are located, that they're spread out throughout the building to create that smaller, I'm going to say, school community within a larger school feel. So you would have your assistant principal, for example, an administrative assistant, perhaps the student advisor, the student supports coordinator, conference rooms for meetings with school community resources, parent meetings that are intended to be in those, I'm going to say, ancillary office areas so that they're easily accessible to students and teachers. We actually very much attempt to do this right now, for example, at Emmaus High School, in which we do have a main office in which We have 2 administrators who are located there, but our remaining 4 administrators on that team are actually spread out throughout Emmaus High School to create, I'm going to say, those hubs of support that are located throughout the building. And certainly was done so through the lens of efficiency, so that we're not creating elaborate office suites, but perhaps minimizing the scope of that main office and then building some of those ancillary office spaces, meeting spaces in other areas of the building.
Okay, all right, thank you, that's
Sure.
helpful.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bowman.
Can I just
Ms.
add
Ford.
one more quick thing about the field spaces, because that was really done in consultation with the athletics office as well as the athletics and activities committee. And there are certain constraints that we're working under to accommodate multiple teams. So to be really clear, we wouldn't be operating under the pretense of a JV and a varsity team. It would be 2 teams participating in the same leagues. So we are under the constraints of the league parameters as far as when we can have those teams and compete with other schools, as well as the fact that we don't intend to add lights to the fields. So that limits the amount of time that we have for our students to actually participate on those fields, either for practice purposes or for actual athletic competition events. And so for those reasons, it was deemed that there was additional space needed to not decrease opportunity, but you will notice that there are certain fields on there that we did not add any to. There was a refinement in the process of how many spaces were actually truly needed to accommodate the number of students we anticipate participating.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that added detail. Ms. Ford.
Thank you for the presentation, particularly the 3D renderings. I really enjoyed that. Just a couple of quick questions. I was just wondering, in the plan, are there any energy efficient or solar details that you're incorporating to help defray, energy costs down the road? Has that been a consideration? Is that in some of the finer detail or?
Yes. So we've begun engaged with the MEP engineers, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, the different disciplines of engineering that contribute to the design. And so absolutely, lots of effort is invested in identifying things like low flow plumbing fixtures, finding high efficiency mechanical equipment, looking for ways within just the building envelope to conserve energy, even down to the selection of materials. They're locally sourcing as much as we can, that sort of thing. We're not presently seeking any third-party certifications on the design. We have not talked about going beyond what you would consider to be standard Pennsylvania public education design with elaborate systems. They do tend to add first cost, and so we're looking for that high return on investment that will hold us within the budget, but yet create a life cycle cost savings over that relates to the materials, the maintenance of materials inside the building. So there's a lot of facets to sustainability. Sometimes the cheapest thing on bid day to install actually costs you the most over the life cycle of the building. So we really do look at it from a life cycle cost standpoint to not burden future boards and budgets with higher maintenance costs, because we wanted to save a little bit right out of the gate. So it's a balance that we strike, and we look at it from a life cycle cost and a return on investment as you're stewarding public funds. Yeah.
Right. Makes sense. I was just thinking of, many things that are becoming more commonplace, like automatic lights that shut off when the room's not being used and things like that.
That's precisely what we are including. So,
Okay.
and the building codes have caught up with some of those ideas. So the example you used, occupancy sensors with regard to lighting control. Actually, there's an even daylight harvesting from windows. Those are actually code requirements to some degree now that didn't exist a decade ago. So, Yeah, it's just a much more efficient, much more thoughtful design in those control systems do add cost to the building, but again, you look for that life cycle return over time.
Right. And then you had referenced the outdoor spaces as protected outdoor environments. And so I guess I just wanted a little more information on that because, looking at it, I see a beautiful space that looks comfortable. But my second thought is access. Is there anything between the space? Can someone drive up to the space? Things like that.
So you have the courtyard spaces, which are obviously within the footprint of the building. You also would have some, if we're to look at the site plan, or maybe the floor plan is more helpful. For instance, at LMMS, the playground behind the building.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, there's, and again, we'll talk about that more as the design develop occurs. But, fencing, surveillance, that sort of thing, bollards to protect against
Right,
vehicles, that sort of thing. And that can all be done in a very tasteful way so that it's integrated into the design in a way that is inviting.
Okay. And lastly, this is just a comment about the suites. My first thought was, if anybody's walked the length of the high school, things are very spread out, and the idea of having sites that make things more accessible and students don't have to be late getting from one place to another sounds like a good thing to me. That's just my personal opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Additional comments? Mr. Smith?
I just had one thought, and it's probably something that's not on your radar, but I'm just looking at the campus, the property of Lower Macungie itself. And as we were talking about the sports fields, I was thinking about this comment came to my mind. I'm looking at the westernmost edge of that, the part that's up against Lower Macungie Road, and I just happened to have Street View pulled up from Mill Creek, looking just how far it is from that corner of the property, how far down and away Lower Macungie Middle School is from that. And I'm looking at that particular corner of that property. And I know that this is something that Lower Macungie Township has focused on with, bringing back natural components to its landscape in terms of greenways and riparian zones and things like that. Every time I drive down Mill Creek and I look at that barren piece of grass and if there's a way that we could, I don't know, do something with that besides mow it every week. If there's, I don't know if it's used for practices or if lacrosse spreads out there, if they're running their practices or what might we be able to use that for? If we're not going to use it, just make it add to the feature of the campus. I know that's probably not something we've thought about at this point, but if that's something we could toss around, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. Additional comments? Mr. Kelly?
Kind of the same lines with the irrigation and the water that happens along those fields. Are there any sort of stipulations with the golf course and things that you have to take into account in order to be able to make sure that we have access to those fields most of the year?
So the stormwater situation on the campus is very complex, and we're really digging into that in earnest right now. With respect to the site survey, where's the water coming from that enters the property? Where is it flowing out of the property? You can see an indication here of that swale that crosses the road. The township is very conscious of some downstream anomalies that occur for the water flowing off the site. We're beginning to get a better picture of some of the sources of water flowing onto the site. So yes, there's going to be a lot of conversation about that and ways to manage that.
So could these fields, sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Could these fields change then due to those studies?
Conceivably, yeah. I mentioned earlier that those swales sort of create catchment areas, drainage areas, and as you can see, we're really trying to limit our improvements to 2 of the 3, again, from a cost, from a fiscal standpoint, and just limiting the amount of disturbance, limiting the area of work, and trying to be thoughtful. So we're trying to do that as targeted, as an intelligent way as possible to limit the scope of the project. But yes, those swales and those outflows are going to be a big part of the conversation with the township and the stormwater management approach moving forward.
No, I personally love as many athletic fields and activity ability as possible. I think the connection with middle school for students, the motivation to get to school, the ability to make friendships through these that last through high school, and connections in the buildings. I think just like the band and the community there, that's so wonderful, and we need to protect and show our pride with the uniforms. I think the athletic fields are a huge part of not only just the community and the kids coming up, but also the middle school life. So I think the more fields, the merrier. Yeah. So thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Additional comments? Ms. Bowman?
Just a clarification on something Ms. Ford had brought up. Were you saying that you thought solar would cost more in repairs, even though it's you said something like the cheaper thing is sometimes more expensive in the long run. Were you referring to that, or was that just a...
Not specifically, but solar in particular requires a lot of study. There's sometimes grants available for it to incentivize. It's a challenge, as I'm sure you've heard presentations on it. I believe there was some consideration here in the district about solar and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's a complex calculation, and it needs to be looked at very carefully in terms of the cost limitations of Act 34 with respect to the buildings and what sort of financial incentives are available to make it affordable to the district. Yeah. So it's a complex topic that we have not engaged in at this stage with respect to the project.
Yeah, I was just curious. I understand that Moravian Academy powers its entire upper campus with solar, and when I look at our electric bills from month over month, I think, oh, that'd be nice if we had that here. So I was just curious what that comment meant, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments or questions? Okay, so I'll close. So my colleagues brought up a lot of good points, some that I thought of myself. Obviously, I won't repeat those. Just one general comment. I think it's exciting to see these programmatic concepts and goals brought to life, if you will, in these schematics and these images. We had the presentation back in February talking about what we wanted to try and do with this project. So it does appear that the design is responsive to what's been proposed. So it is exciting to see that. Obviously, in another 4 weeks, we're going to get the financial side of things and see how all this is going to fit together from a cost standpoint. I guess one thing I wanted to clarify or emphasize is that we're going to take the opportunity of these renovations to engage in planned capital improvement items. Okay.
Yes.
And then the last slide breaks out the planned cost for those capital improvements versus realignment. Okay. And one other general curiosity that I have, obviously, staging the construction, because we're going to do so much within within the existing space and overlapping, obviously, when school is in session. So is there any aspect of the design that's been proposed here that's going to make the logistics of that harder? Or was some of that factored into what's being proposed here and how it actually would be implemented?
So yes, we're carefully looking at that now. The earlier you engage those topics, the better, right? You have that sort of cost benefit curve of it. We're at the stage when it's much easier to do course corrections on things than it will be further down the stream in terms of design. So yes, with the district, with CHA, the construction manager, with our expanding design team as more consultants are brought on board, we're looking at all of those things. Where are the existing utilities underground that serve the building? How would we consider constructing the additions first to create swing space to then back through the existing building to do renovations? But how is that managed from an access and egress standpoint? As the saying goes, these are schools first and construction sites second. So we always have to have that in mind. And so, yes, those logistics, the phasing, the constructability issues are part of this analysis at this stage.
Yeah, I'll just give the really practical example from the educator. Like we just recently had a team meeting and CHA, our construction management partners, brought up it was in one of the buildings, the location of an admin suite. And if that perhaps we were able to move the admin suite in several special education classrooms, that could perhaps impact or influence the phasing and when a wing might be able to be completed at one point in time versus another. And so those conversations are happening, and ultimately the educators around the table said we really were very strategic in putting those rooms in that suite there. And so again, then having that information, CHA just sort of replans in terms of the phasing of the process and when those changes might happen. So those collaborative conversations are even happening, what I would say, this early in the process.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Inevitably, we're going to need a healthy dose of patience and understanding once this all goes down. Anyway, thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you to my colleagues for the thoughtful questions. We look forward to, again, pursuing the financial side of this, what's being proposed in 4 weeks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, moving on. Next item on our agenda is personnel items. May I have a motion to approve the personnel?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, Ms. Allen, please call the roll.
Mr. Falegi.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Klotz.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Dr. Whitney.
Aye.
Ms. Bowman.
Aye.
Dr. Levins.
Aye.
9 ayes.
I believe Dr. Campbell has some recognitions.
Thank you. We're moving quickly now. The board did just accept the retirement of several staff members who are a valued part of our team. In particular, Mr. Nitz, Mike Nitz, will be retiring at the end of the year. He has 26 years in East Penn as a school counselor at Lower Macungie Middle School. When I actually made my first transition into administration, I was an assistant principal at Lower Macungie Middle School, and Mike was one of the first individuals whom I had the pleasure of working with. So we certainly wish him well, and know that he will certainly enjoy his retirement. In addition, Tracy O'Connor will be retiring at the end of this school year as a science teacher at Eyre Middle School. Again, someone who has 27 years of her total of 28 years in public education. 27 of them are with us, all of which are at Eyre, and so we certainly wish Tracy well in her retirement. And finally, Ms. Rodriguez, Miriam Rodriguez, is a remedial assistant at Lower Macungie Middle School. She'll be retiring in early June, and she has 10 years as an 10 years as a support staff member, the majority of which are as an instructional assistant. She also started with us as a remedial assistant, again, her entire time at Lower Macungie. So it's great to see people who remain committed to the district and a school community of working with our students. And then finally, Deb Stark will be retiring as well as an instructional assistant at Lower Macungie Middle School. She has a total of 26 years in education, 9 of which have been with us as an IA at LMMS. So collectively, those four team members have 72 years of service to East Penn, and we certainly appreciate them and wish them well.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Campbell. Ms. Klotz.
I just have to give a special note to Mr. Nitz. He is a remarkable individual and was instrumental in helping so many students. So I really hope that he enjoys his retirement. He will be missed. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Klotz. Okay, next item on the agenda is business operations. I'm going to take this in 3 parts. I'd like to get a motion on items A and B together, district bills and treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions on those items? Seeing none, Ms. Allen, please call the roll.
Ms. Ford,
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Klotz,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Dr. Whitney,
Aye.
Ms. Bowman,
Aye.
Mr. Falegi,
Aye.
Dr. Levinson.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. I'd like to now get a motion on items C, D, and E together. These are items that we approve annually.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the board? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Allen, please call the roll.
Mr. Jankowski,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Klotz,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Dr. Whitney,
Aye.
Ms. Bowman,
Aye.
Mr. Falegi,
Aye.
Ms. Ford,
Aye.
Dr. Levinson.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Finally, I'd like to get a motion on items F and G for contracts, agreements, and donations. And I will make one note that an earlier version of the agenda had a typo on the donation from the LMS Sunshine Fund. The actual amount should be $1,461.96, which is currently reflected in the agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, Ms. Allen, please call the roll.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Klotz,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Dr. Whitney,
Aye.
Ms. Bowman,
Aye.
Mr. Falegi,
Aye.
Ms. Ford,
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski,
Aye.
Dr. Levinson.
Aye.
9 ayes.
And before moving on, I'd just like to recognize the 2 donors, the LMS Sunshine Fund and also the EPSD Education Foundation, for their generosity in helping to fund the LMS Angel Network and the EHS Student Scholarships, respectively. Okay, moving on to curriculum. I'm going to take items A and B separately. I may have a motion on A, educational conferences.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, Ms. Allen, please call the roll.
Ms. Klotz,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Dr. Whitney,
Aye.
Ms. Bowman,
Aye.
Mr. Falegi,
Aye.
Ms. Ford,
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Dr. Levinson.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Item B under curriculum, the approval to approve the flexible instruction days application. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any comments or questions from the board? Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I just want to quickly explain my voting tonight. I imagine it's probably going to be a pretty quick and easy vote, but I'm not going to be voting in favor of it tonight. And please, I want everyone who's listening to understand this is not a reflection on the district's plan or the use of it. I know I recognize that we are very prudent in our use of the flexible instructional days, but I am pretty firm in my belief that the every minute spent in an actual classroom setting does not translate equitably to a minute in a virtual asynchronous or synchronous setting for that matter. So I would much rather use those days in a classroom setting, even if they happen to be tacked on at the end of the year, I want to maximize time in the classroom. So, so I'm going to be voting no on this one tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any additional comments or questions? Okay. Seeing none, Ms. Allen, please call the roll.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Dr. Whitney?
Aye.
Ms. Bowman?
Aye.
Mr. Falegi?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Klotz?
Aye.
Dr. Levinson?
Aye.
8 ayes, 1 nay.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Final item on the curriculum is for information only. It's a textbook review for French. Again, an earlier version of the agenda had it listed as an adoption, but it is just for review, and that's what is reflected in the agenda currently. Okay, moving on to policy. Second reading. Are there any comments from administration to describe? Okay,
No, there are no changes since
no-
first reading.
No changes since first reading. Are there any further comments or questions from the board regarding the second reading of these policies? Okay, well, let's on to third reading for our next meeting then. Okay. Next item is a legislative item. We're going to approve the appointment of voting delegates for PSBA Delegate Assembly. This is an annual event for PSBA where each district gets allocated a certain number of representatives to go participate in the Delegate Assembly and vote on the platform in addition to other things like bylaw changes and whatnot. Given the size of our district, we're allotted three members to go to this meeting. I think it's important that we do try to send a full contingent for this. I know that a Tuesday afternoon may not be the most convenient, but if anybody, I would like, if anybody feels like that they can make the effort, I definitely would like to have a full contingent there. It's my understanding that Mr. Kelly has graciously volunteered to be one of our three. We have not heard from anyone else. If I'd like to.
I'll volunteer.
Ms. Ford, thank you very much.
I will, can I?
Yes.
Okay, I will say this, this backs up against the PSBA meetings that I attended last year, and they are phenomenal in terms of understanding movements in education and laws, and it's a great retreat that goes with it. So if you're going to go to that, you'll be there at the building a little bit early for this to start. So
That is true. If there are board members who are interested in participating in the main meeting, definitely do that as well. All right, so Ms. Ford and Mr. Kelly, do I have a third? Well, I'm going to make an effort to go then. The motion is going to be to approve Mr. Kelly, Ms. Ford, and myself as our three delegates attending the Delegate Assembly on October 21st. I have a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Anybody would like to come in with a last minute? Okay. All right, seeing none, Ms. Allen, please call the roll.
Dr. Whitney?
Aye.
Ms. Bowman?
Aye.
Mr. Falegi?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Klotz?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Dr. Levinson?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Next item is the appointment of a board secretary and also an appointment of treasurer. Ms. Allen is our nominee for the board secretary, and Mr. Saul is our nominee for treasurer. I'd like to take a motion on both items A and B together.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Okay, appreciate your willingness to serve. May I have or Ms. Allen, please call the roll.
Ms. Bowman?
Aye.
Mr. Falegi?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Klotz?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Dr. Whitney?
Aye.
Dr. Levinson?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Moving on to other educational entities. I believe we have a report from Dr. Whitney for CLIU.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Make this relatively brief. The CLA Board of Directors met on April 25th. The primary presentation that we heard about was from the Curriculum and Instruction Department. Mr. Eric Leck, who leads that department, shared an overview of some of the student-centered programs that the IU offers to promote academic excellence, leadership opportunities. These include a lot of competitions like coding challenges, reading Olympics, media and design competitions, and over 1,000 students are expected to participate in these competitions this year across the IU. And he also highlighted some leadership initiatives. They have a Chief Science Officers Program and a Student Journalism Summit. These are opportunities to connect students with professionals in those fields. And then finally, concluded with reintroduction of a program called the Student Forum, which the IU had initiated originally, I think, in 2015, 2016, and it was suspended during the pandemic, but it's now been revived. And essentially, this is an opportunity for about once a month students from across the 14 districts. Anyone who wants to participate, any district that wants to participate can do so. It's essentially a way to connect students from all those districts where they can get together on a number of fronts, meeting, talking about career pathways with professionals from various fields, talking about issues that are coming up at their various districts and on the student level, just connecting with one another. Just a really fantastic program, and it's great to hear that they've revived it and are looking to continue to expand it. And we had some students from the Northwestern Lehigh District there who participated in this there at the meeting to talk about some of their service projects that they've done through this program and other ways that they've worked with peers from districts. So it was a great presentation, a real reminder that the IU's really trying to pull all the districts together in a lot of different ways. And then a couple other just items of business. The general operating budget, it was confirmed, was unanimously approved by all 14 districts this year. We approved CLAU calendars for central office payroll and board meetings for the upcoming year. We approved the annual agreement with Sweet Stevens, Katz & Williams for legal services for the next fiscal year. And then finally, the executive director of the IU, Greg Coons, it was pointed out, had a letter to the editor published in the Times Tribune on May 2nd, advocating for full funding for schools for Pennsylvania. So that's just a great opportunity. Dr. Coons has a real knack for communications. He has a podcast that's very entertaining on leadership. He and frequently, tries to get himself out in the media. And so this was a recent example of that, and we're grateful to him for doing it. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Whitney. Any comments or questions for Dr. Whitney? Okay, appreciate the update. Moving on to announcements, the board did meet in executive session tonight to discuss a topic related to personnel. The school district will be closed for Memorial Day on Monday, May 26, 2025. And finally, our next regular board meeting is going to be on Monday, June 9th, 7:30 in this room. With no further business, I'd like to now get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting adjourned.